be addressed in the individual statements, but when they get to speak to each other, I think they actually progress more in the conversation. So if in a future debate they can do that for a bigger chunk of time, I think that would be great. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you for coming up. Thank you for your candor.
Great.
And
And that's all.
yep, we will get on with the other debates. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the gifts. Thank you.
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you,
See
Cease.
y'all.
Thank you, Jet. Feel free to request any time to do any other debate, any other topic with any opponent. I will host it. I will promote it for free. And this is a reminder to the 124 people in here. If you want to debate somebody, any topic, any opponent, I will host it. I will promote it for you for free, and get that going. Jay, do you have anything to say about the previous debate that we just watched? I think it was very informational, jam-packed with lots of information and things that we can learn from.
I think it at times kind of veered off topic, but for the most part, I found it like you did informative, and I think if Cease to Know and Jet had more time, I think they could have actually ironed out something within the debate. But for the most part, I think they both did a really great job. Ironed out something. Jet at defending, and Cease to Know, of course, bringing the heat as normal. But yeah, great job, guys.
Definitely, definitely. Both of those debaters, very good, very prominent debaters, very skilled debaters. So today, our next debate is going to be between Wi-Fi Gospel and Daniel, and they are going to be debating the topic, um, is the Christian God good? Um, is the Christian God good? So, hey, good to see you guys. I'm sort of looking at my document, trying to get everything in
In
order.
order.
Is the
Is the
Christian God
Christian
good?
God good?
Oh, I
Oh,
think
I
Daniel,
think
you might
Daniel,
have
you
an
might have an
echo.
echo.
Oh man. Okay, let me try again.
Okay, one more
Okay, well,
time. Sorry about that. TikTok can be like wonky and stuff. But really quick, I will remind everybody, please tap your screens, like the live. That gets more people in here to watch these debates. And I appreciate all of your support. Thank you for the gifts. Especially thank you for like gifting the guests who are here debating. I really appreciate that. I want the guests to benefit from these kinds of events as much as me, or even more so than me. So thank you guys for that support. Continue to tap and like the live. And we appreciate the gifts, but mostly we appreciate you guys being here. So thank you so
thank you so
much.
much.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you.
How's that? Is that
We're still running an echo, Daniel.
all right? Give me one
That's
last
okay.
try. All right. One last.
Or if it doesn't work, I won't speak when you're speaking. I'll like mute while you talk, and then like we'll just alternate. If it doesn't work this next time, so it's fine. We'll work around it.
Yeah, you guys tap the screen as much as you possibly can. We have another two heavy hitters on the panel, in Wi-Fi Gospel and Daniel, and so support the live as much as possible in this debate. This is going to fare to be a great one. I would presume.
Okay, okay. So I think we'll try to make do. Hopefully the audio will work throughout the debate. But we're gonna start with the affirmatives 7-minute opener. That's gonna be you Wi-Fi Gospel. The topic is the Christian God good? Here, let me grab the timer and we will start that now. And you can start. I'll start the timer when you say your first word.
Awesome. Thank you, Coco and Jay, for putting this together. Thank you, Daniel, for being my partner. I know there was a last-minute dropout. I'm happy to fill that position, so appreciate being here. I just want to start off by saying that Euthyphro's dilemma is a false dilemma. Something is not good merely because God commands it, nor does God command things because they are good independent of himself. God's commandments are good because they reflect his nature, and evil is a privation of good. Now let's talk about Daniel's worldview. If Daniel's worldview is true, what does it mean for anything to be good or evil? Right or wrong? In order for God to be good in Daniel's worldview, It would simply rely on the individual preferences of a person. Since preferences are equal, there's no way for Daniel to tell me that my preference that God is good is wrong. There's also no way to differentiate between Daniel's preference that God is not good and my preference that he is. In other words, there are no moral facts. A moral fact includes a descriptive moral judgment that is true for all individuals, such as being a PDF file is wrong, and descriptive moral judgments that are true of one individual, such as Daniel is good. If morality is subjective, there are no moral facts, and therefore it cannot be true that anything is good or evil. The problem with this is that Daniel himself will not be consistent with this view. How do I know this? When I ask someone who believes morality is subjective, is being a PDF file wrong, they often respond with yes, to me it is, or yes, I think it is. But that's not actually answering the question consistently with the idea that morality is subjective. Saying that you think something is saying that you believe that something is. So again, saying that you think something is saying that you believe that something is true. If there are no moral facts, you can't believe that a moral judgment is true. So what they mean when they answer with yes to me, or yes, I think it is actually, I prefer that people are not PDF files. I don't care about your preferences. I want to know the truth of the matter. It's like asking what happens when you mix baking soda and vinegar, and getting the answer, well, it's my preference that it bubbles. No, it does bubble. It's not based on opinion or preference. It's a fact. In the same way, the question, is being a PDF file wrong, isn't about how you feel about it. I'm asking if being a PDF file is wrong is a true statement. If morality is truly subjective, then being a PDF file is wrong has no more weight than I don't like broccoli. We all know instinctively it's more than that. I am asking for the truth of the matter. And if there is no truth of the matter, then your answer has to be no. Being a PDF file is not wrong. In the same way, and this is extremely important because this ends the debate right here, if I say God is good and there are no moral facts, then Daniel can't consistently say that I am wrong for having that opinion. He can't even say that the opinion itself is actually wrong. He can only say that he holds a different opinion. That's what a preference is. So in both my worldview and Daniel's worldview, there is nothing actually wrong with saying God is good. That's not actually a false statement. Now, Daniel's probably going to bring up things in the Bible that God has done that he feels are wrong. So what? I don't care if Daniel feels that everything God has done is wrong. Daniel's subjective feelings and preferences hold no weight on the matter if God is good or not. If you don't like that God commands the Israelites to go to war with other nations and unalive men, women, and children, then be consistent. You also must not like that God takes any life. Why stop at gender? Why stop at age? What's the difference between God taking the life of a 90-year-old and a 1-year-old? What if that 1-year-old dies and goes into a blessed state? I don't have a problem with God taking life, and neither does Daniel. If you don't like that God allows the Israelites to own slaves, then be consistent. When someone commits a heinous crime, yell at them, say bad boy, put them in the corner, and tell them not to do it again. But also do nothing, because imprisoning them would be a form of slavery. Forcing someone against their will to live in a box separated from society, caged up like a wild animal, told when to wake up, when to eat, when to shower, when to go to bed, and economically benefiting off of their incarceration is a form of slavery. The state owns those people. Now, what happens if a prisoner refuses when they are told to go back into their cell because it's time for bed? Do we call their mother? Do we tell them to go into timeout? No, we go get the riot gear and we forcibly constrain and support that unruly prisoner back into their cell using as much force as necessary. I don't have a problem with certain forms of slavery, and neither does Daniel. See, not only is Daniel stuck with my preferences, bro, he applies those preferences wholly inconsistently and holds every other worldview to a higher standard than his own. If God is not good, then nothing is good. There are good things, therefore God is good. Thank you. That's my time.
Okay, gotcha. I'm ending your time, and you had 1 minute and 36 seconds left. So now, Daniel, you're gonna do your opening statement. It's going to be 7 minutes. I'll mute to help with the echo, but I will start the timer whenever you say your first word.
Can I just check my audio first, perhaps? Is that working now? Without echo?
Actually, I think this is perfect, actually.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Hey, thank you so much for the heads up. I appreciate that, dude. Thank you for all the gifts so far, too. That's crazy. For the audience, who most of whom I assume do not know who I am, my name is Daniel Green, and I will be arguing that the Christian God is not good. At 32, I am a former Christian. Despite being indoctrinated into Christianity during childhood, and having even intended to become a qualified religious education teacher, I've come to believe that there is no sound argument or coherent body of evidence in support of Christianity being true. Related to the absence of my belief in Yahweh existing is my deep and sincere repulsion at their moral code, both as described in the Bible and as observed throughout post-biblical history. Hypothetically granting their existence for the sake of tonight's debate, of course. My repulsion is not something that I believe I can help. And I accurately anticipated that Alex would accuse me of not having grounds upon which to claim that there is anything wrong with any of Yahweh's actions or commands. I anticipate that he will claim it's not really possible for any of Yahweh's actions to not be good, because it's largely by his authority that anything is determined to be objectively good in the first place. That is according to Yahweh conveniently. I believe Alex is likely to accuse me of using my own subjective experiences, I was right there too, to inform my moral standards, which will be accurate of him to say. But as a Christian presuppositionalist, he will do this under the pretense that he has access to a superior, more objective Christian authority from which he can derive his own moral standards, which I don't believe to be the case. I believe Alex, just like the rest of us, is experiencing reality subjectively, and as such has only ever been able to construct his own beliefs and moral standards in response to what he has experienced. Again, just like the rest of us. Because of this, I believe Alex's definition of what constitutes good will be just as valid as anyone else's has ever been, including the audience's and my own. But I'll be hoping that the audience is honest with themselves while listening to the debate and when reflecting afterwards, in asking themselves whether or not they sincerely believe the allegedly all-powerful, all-knowing Yahweh can really be considered definitively good. I would ask the audience to note the double standards we're expected to ignore when it comes to Christian morality. As beings that are certainly not all-powerful or all-knowing, we still aim to hold each other to an appropriate degree of accountability, one that's roughly proportional to our powers of moral reasoning and our ability to act upon them given our stage of development. Yeehaw, cowboy, thank you. For example, we do not hold young children to the degree of accountability as we do older children, nor do we hold older children to the same degree of accountability as adults. Again, because we understand that different degrees of power to reason and act morally are reached as we develop. But when it comes to Yahweh, an eternally all-powerful, all-knowing entity, the bar that we otherwise set, proportional to our ability to consider, carry out, and reflect upon our actions, no longer exists. Does this seem like a fair arrangement? Would the audience prefer to live in a society in which the most powerful are held to the lowest moral accountability? Should we consider a system like this to be the design of a good God? You may have heard Christians defend Yahweh's abuses of power with a token, his ways are higher than ours. But when confronted with how Yahweh chooses to wield his omnipotence, being told that it's Yahweh or the highway is not good enough for me. I wouldn't accept the most powerful human conceivable personally assuring me of the goodness of their actions, while they both command and personally commit the slaughter of children and infants. So why would I abandon that standard altogether in order to accept the same actions from a supremely powerful being with an unlimited number of options at their disposal in any given moment? Self-appointed dictators are to be resisted, not worshipped or thanked for showing mercy in the form of having chosen slightly less reprehensible courses of action than they otherwise could have. The Bible is full of examples of Yahweh legislating, condoning, committing, or otherwise commanding his followers to commit acts that I think the audience would almost certainly not sincerely accept as those of an all-good, supremely powerful being. He commands the Israelites to slaughter various neighboring Canaanite tribes, including their children and their infants, for the crimes of their ancestors at that, or for occupying land that he's decided he wants the Israelites to live on. He legislates the marrying off of graped virgin daughters to their grapists and prohibits them from being divorced. He condones the taking of non-Hebrews as property that Hebrews can bequeath to their children as inheritance. He condemns all of humanity with original sin for the actions of the first two humans that he ever made, despite, mind you, knowing full well that they would fall short of meeting his demands before he even chose to make them in the first place. Honk honk. He punishes all of Egypt following Pharaoh's refusal to free the Israelites, a refusal which Yahweh himself planned and ensured would come to pass. All this without even having yet touched on the innumerable examples of him choosing not to act when doing so would alleviate or avoid unnecessary and abject pain and suffering, while costing him absolutely nothing. The list of Yahweh's misuses and abuses of power really could go on for quite some time, but perhaps it would be best to make sure you as the audience have just read the Bible for yourself and learned a little bit about the shocking events of history as we understand them to be. I have nothing more for now.
Okay. Pausing your time, and you had 25 seconds left on the clock.
Thank you.
So right now we're going to start the cross-examinations. Let me take a look. So it's going to be 5-minute cross-examinations. Wi-Fi Gospel, you're going to be asking your questions first. I'll start it whenever you say your first word.
Hey, Daniel.
Hi, man.
So,
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, pal.
Good. Based on your opening statement, would you say that moral facts do not exist?
No, I don't believe that they necessarily do.
Is being a PDF file wrong?
To confirm your suspicion, I believe it is. I don't believe we should support it or condone it, no.
So when you say you believe it is, it means that you believe that statement to be true, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. But if there are no moral facts, that statement can neither be true or false. Isn't that right?
I'm not claiming certainty of objective morality. I'm just stating my beliefs.
I didn't ask for certainty. Yeah, so when you say that you believe something, it means that you believe something is true, right?
I believe it's more likely to be true than an alternative, yeah.
Okay. But if there are no moral facts, then a moral statement cannot be true and cannot be false. So you saying you believe it to be true, wouldn't that be a contradiction in your worldview?
No, because I don't think that claiming belief of something is the same as stating certainty of it.
Right, but I'm not sure you're understanding it. When you say you believe something, you're making a judgment about a proposition. You're saying that this proposition, as you said, is most likely true, right?
I believe it is more likely to be true than false, yes.
Okay.
Can you? I'm open to reason to believe otherwise.
Right. No, I would agree with you, but not based on the same grounding here. The question for you is, if there are no moral facts, can a moral statement be true or false?
We can believe so. I think Christians can believe that they have objective morality too, but I don't think that they can necessarily have certainty of that either.
So
that's my belief.
So are there moral facts or not, Daniel?
To repeat myself, I don't believe that there necessarily are.
Okay, that's satisfactory. Let's see here. Earlier, you said that you have a repulsion of moral code. Is that merely your preference?
Yeah, I can't help it. I can't help that I find Yahweh.
Your preference. Why is your preference better than anyone else's preference?
Well, I can't say that it objectively is, but I can give reasons for why I hold to it.
Okay, so if your preference is not better than anyone else's preference, how do we know which preference is right?
I don't think that we can know objectively.
Okay, so if
it's
my
frustrating.
preference...
Don't get me wrong. It's frustrating.
Okay, that's fine. If my preference is that God is good, could that preference be wrong?
Sure.
Wait a minute. You just said that preferences, if you have a preference and I have a preference, we can't tell which one is right or wrong. So how can you tell my preference is wrong?
I don't think we can know that it's wrong, but it might be.
Okay.
You asked me if it could be wrong, not if it is wrong.
All right. All right. So is my preference that God is good wrong?
I believe that it is, yes.
Okay, so you have a different preference, right?
Correct.
Okay. That doesn't mean my preference is wrong just because you have a different preference, right?
Correct. Not objectively, that's right.
Okay. So you have no way of telling that my preference is wrong.
I have reason to believe that yours is wrong. But again, I'm not claiming,
fine.
at no point am I claiming certainty of moral fact at all. At no point have I ever done that.
Well, there are no moral facts, right?
I'm not convinced that there necessarily are, no.
Okay. Now, you said that we have to hold each other accountable. Why is that?
We don't have to. I didn't say that we have to. I say that we tend to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if my preference is that we don't hold each other accountable, then that's just fine as well, too, right?
Not by me, no.
Right. But again, you can't say that my preference is wrong.
Not objectively, but I can give you reasons as to why
Not
I
even
believe that it is.
subjectively. You can just hold a different preference.
Are you a solipsist?
No, not at all. This has nothing to do with this.
Well, I am experiencing reality subjectively, unless you don't believe me. You don't have to believe me. You can think that I'm just a figment of your imagination, but...
It, again, has nothing to do with this debate. If you say that you like chocolate... Actually, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
My favorite flavor? I like bubblegum. You know that light blue one?
That is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I
your
like it.
preference when you go to the ice cream store. If they have light blue bubble gum, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, and I don't see that my preference of ice cream flavored, hurts
that's
anyone
fine.
either.
My preference, and again, whether hurting someone is wrong or not is also a preference.
Okay, finish your last sentence.
All right, so my point here is that if my preference is to have cake batter ice cream, can you say that my preference is wrong?
Okay.
No, and I don't think it's important either because you're probably not hurting anyone by preferring that either.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I should have let you answer that question. But okay, Daniel, you're going to start your cross-examination. You get 5 minutes, and I'll start the timer when you say your first word.
Sure, thank you so much. Do you believe that any punishment dealt out by any arbiter of justice should be proportionate to the perceived crimes committed?
Yes, as well as proportionate to who the crime is committed against.
Got you. Okay. Do you have children?
I do.
Right. Do you love them?
I do.
Yeah, me too. I got a little daughter. You got a daughter or sons or?
3 boys.
Hooey! Holy Trinity. As a parent, do you believe that the punishments or consequences that you choose to deal out to your children who you love should be proportional to any transgression that they commit?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Me too. Imagine that you had a child that was born without the capacity for moral reasoning. That part of the brain just didn't develop, maybe. In the middle of this child's playpen, you choose to place a button which, when pressed, will cause the child's ability to reason morally to spontaneously develop. Imagine you command that child not to press the button that you chose to put in the middle of their playpen. Yet sometime later, they end up pressing it. Now, they do have the ability to reason morally. Do you believe it would be just to punish the child?
Within your analogy and within my limited capabilities, no, but I don't think your analogy is one-to-one with the garden.
I'm not saying that it necessarily is. I'm just trying to get, thoughts out there. You don't believe the analogy is one-to-one. That's fine. You don't think it would be just to punish the child. Cool. I don't either. I don't think that would be proportionate whatsoever. Do you believe it would be proportionate to the child's failure to adhere to your commands, to curse their descendants for all time?
You said is this before they have the reason, the capability to reason morally?
Yeah.
If they don't have the capability to reason morally, I don't think it would be just to punish them or their descendants. No.
Okay. So, in your mind, what makes it just for Yahweh to condemn all of humanity for the actions that Adam and Eve couldn't help commit?
I thought you weren't going there, but let's. It's funny. No, yeah.
I didn't
so
say it wasn't
the
going there.
reason-
I said I recognize it wasn't necessarily a one-to-one analogy.
Okay. So the reason for this is because God told Adam and Eve, one, they had moral responsibility. They had the ability to reason morally. Eating from the knowledge of, or the tree of good and evil, saying that they had the knowledge of good and evil wasn't that they couldn't reason morally. It was the ability to choose good and evil for themselves. So it's just a misunderstanding there. Also, the reason their descendants were punished was because they were given mercy. They were told that they would die the day that they ate of the tree of good and evil. But they didn't die. Instead, God slaughtered an animal and clothed them and kept them alive so that he could redeem them. And part of doing that was that their descendants were cursed.
Was it necessary for God to do all of this?
God freely chose to create beings with free will. Was it necessary that he create? No.
Okay, so he chose to create a scenario within which he knew these people that didn't have the ability to morally reason because they had not yet eaten from the fruit of
Wrong
the knowledge of good and
presupposition.
evil. Do you deny that it was upon eating from the tree
Yes.
that's when they got the understanding of what's right and wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So what were they lacking before they ate from the fruit?
I'm not sure that they were lacking anything. They had the ability to choose the good from the wrong, and they chose the wrong.
So they didn't gain anything from eating from the tree of fruit and knowledge.
No, they actually they lost a lot. They went against the command of God, and God cursed them because of it.
Okay, so they had knowledge of what's good and evil before eating from the tree that is the source of good and evil.
Yeah, just because the tree is the knowledge of the fruit is the knowledge of the good and evil doesn't mean that they didn't have the ability to reason morally.
Okay, what do you think
That's not Christian
constitutes what must precede? Well, maybe not your denomination. What do you believe must precede the ability to reason morally?
Free will.
Okay, got it. Was it possible, given the scenario that Yahweh knew he was going to set up, before even setting up the Garden of Eden, was it possible for Adam and Eve, to surprise God in any way?
Okay, answer that
Not that
question,
God-
and that'll be it.
Yeah, not that God would be surprised, but God's knowledge does not determine human actions.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll stop
thank
right
you.
there. We're going to start the second round of cross-examination. Wi-Fi Gospel, it's your turn again, and I'll start the timer when you say your first word.
All right, is it your preference that it's good, evil, or morally neutral to own an animal?
Personally, I think it depends how you acquired them. I have 2 rescue dogs, which I think would be worse off if they were left where they were before I bought them off of their owners at that time. I think I take better care of them than they otherwise would have got.
So is it
But
good
otherwise,
for you to own them?
I think it's better for me to take responsibility for their health and well-being than for them to be on the street or something. Yeah,
Okay. Is it good for you to own them?
I think it's better for me to own them. Yeah.
The question is it good?
Look, I don't know that I.
Can you please
Like the
just
term
answer
ownership?
the question? So
Yeah,
how do you not
I think
own
I am
an
answering the
animal?
question. Excuse me.
How do you not own an animal?
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by ownership, like legal ownership or just like possession of the object, or
Legal ownership? Do you legally own your pets, or did you get them illegally?
under Australian law, I own my pets. Yes.
Okay.
But I
Is it a
just
good
consider
thing that you
myself
own
to
your
be.
pets?
Excuse me.
Is it good to own your pets?
Not necessarily. No, I think it's good that I take
No?
good care of them.
So why do you own them if it's not a good thing to own them?
Well, because under Australian law, which I don't think is the arbiter of
I
what's
just
right
think
and wrong.
they're dodging you.
I don't mind if you feel that way. Under Australian law,
Is it?
I can't take these
It's all right,
animals.
it's my time. Is it morally evil to neglect providing the biological and psychological needs of the animal?
I don't think so. No.
Sorry, you didn't hear me. Is it morally evil or wrong to neglect providing the biological and psychological needs of the animal?
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
I believe it would be worse, yes, to do that.
True or false? According to science and biology, humans are animals.
True.
Okay, if humans are animals and it's okay to own animals, does it logically follow that it's okay to own humans?
Well, again, I didn't say that I think it is okay to own animals.
Oh,
I said that
so
under
you're just
Australian
hypocrite
law...
because you do own animals.
No, I said under Australian law, for me to take these animals required me to take what Australian government considers to be ownership of them. I'm a vegan.
Okay.
I don't consume animals. I don't purchase animal products. I'm concerned with taking
Yeah,
care
you
of
just
animals
own
as
them.
best I can. Because in Australia, I'm not allowed to just take things without paying for them.
So if somebody found a dog in the wilderness and took them into their home, would they own them?
No, I don't think so. They
No,
might have
wouldn't. So what
taken.
would they be a part of their family?
The people could consider that if they want. I don't know.
So does this dog live in the house? Can they stop the dog from escaping? Like what's going on here?
It depends on the family.
Okay.
Oh, there are
This is
people who
just a
don't
dodge
have
scale
fences.
question, that's fine.
It's not a dodge of the question.
So
There are people
I want
around
to
the
go
world
back
who aren't.
originally.
Okay.
I just want to restate. Since there are no moral facts, when I say that God is good, you earlier said that you have a different preference, but I want you to just say again for the audience, it's not wrong for me to hold that preference, right?
Not objectively, no.
In any sense.
Not objectively.
Okay.
No.
Back to the ice cream example. Is it wrong for me to hold the preference that cake batter is the ice cream that I prefer?
No.
Okay, so
I don't
why
believe
can't you
so.
just answer no to the question I asked? I asked you about preferences. Why do you have to pre-qualify it with objective?
I think what I qualify it with is that I don't believe so. I think you don't like that I don't claim certainty of things.
No, because it seems like when I ask you about the ice cream example, you just say no. But when I ask you about if being a PDF file is wrong, you say not objectively. You have to qualify it because I think you understand that it makes you look bad by being consistent with your worldview.
I don't mind if you feel that way.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm content with that. I think this puts a nice ribbon on it.
Okay,
I
cool.
can see the rest of my time.
Okay, I'm pausing the time, and you had 26 seconds left. Daniel, you will start your cross-examination, and then we will continue to final statements. You got 5 minutes, and I'll start whenever you say your first word.
Cool. If you had in front of you a big red button, I feel like I'm in good company here today with Ian bringing up a big red button analogy too. But if you had a big red button in front of you that, if pressed, would heal all cancer, would it be good to not press it?
For me to not heal all cancer, would it be good for me to not press it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Is God able to heal all cancer?
Yes.
Okay. If you had in front of you a big red button that, if pressed, would remove the desire to molest children from the mind of all P3DOs, including the thousands of P3DO priests, would it be good to not press it?
Now, me being with limited capabilities and not understanding the essence of free will as a God would, yeah, I would press the button in my human will.
Is God able to remove the desire to molest children from the minds of all P3DOs, including the thousands of P3DO priests?
Yeah, while God, and I like the little quip at the end there, school teachers by far outweigh any church members committing these acts. That's a blatant fact. So if we were to try to remove it from all the school teachers, God has that ability, yes. The reason he doesn't do so is out of my limited reasoning.
Sure. You just accept it.
He has a moral justification for it, but in your worldview, it's not wrong. It's just you don't like it. So.
Sure, but you accept it. You accept him choosing not to help out. Cool. Okay. If you had
what do
in
you
front
mean
of you a
not to
big red
help out?
button, oh, I'm just going to ask the next question. If you had in front of you a big red button that, if pressed, would solve world hunger, preventing millions of children from dying from painful and prolonged starvation every year, would it be good to not press it?
Again, you keep conflating God's
I'm
ability
just
and obligations with
gonna
mine.
ask that you respond to my question directly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I did. You're presupposing that mine and God's ability are the same,
No,
which is
I'm not doing that. Actually,
Yeah.
that question doesn't contain any reference to God. It's a question to you. Would you press that button?
Personally, yes. Now, does
Yeah.
that mean
Would
it's
you-
wrong for God not to do
I'm
that?
not. I'm
No.
not. I'm not asking about that yet.
Yes,
That's
you
my
are.
next question.
You're
No,
implying
that's
it.
no. I reclaim my time.
I'm ahead
I'm not
of you.
asking you. No,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
I see exactly where
Just
you're going.
relax. Just relax. I'm not asking about God yet. That is coming up, but you just need to wait a sec.
Oh, like I said.
So you think that it would be good? It wouldn't be good to not press the button.
For me, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Is God able to solve world hunger, preventing millions of children from dying a painful and prolonged death?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. If you had a big red button that, if pressed, would trigger an earthquake, killing tens of thousands, injuring hundreds of thousands, and leaving millions homeless, would it be good to press that button?
Only if they were all atheists.
Fascinating. If you had a big red button that, if pressed, would spawn the birth of psychopaths, so humans without the capacity to empathize or care about the suffering that they cause, would it be good to press that button?
Only if they harmed atheists.
Okay, got it. Could God have chosen not to create Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, or Albert Fish?
To say that God is responsible for their sin would be a wrong assumption. You have many wrong assumptions here tonight. But God could have created any way He wanted to.
I'm just gonna bring back to the question. Is this a yes or no? I know you like these ones.
Oh,
Could God have chosen to
you didn't
not
like answering yes
create?
or no.
I don't mind if you're feeling
Very
frustrated, but this
hypocritical.
is the question for now. Could God have chosen to not create Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and Albert Fish, knowing before having created them that they would go on to do what they did?
Yes, God could choose to do what He wants. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Do you believe that causing unnecessary pain and suffering is good?
I don't believe that God causes unnecessary pain and suffering.
That's not really what I asked. I asked, do you believe that causing unnecessary pain and suffering is good?
No.
Okay, got it. Do you believe that heaven exists?
Yeah.
Okay. How much unnecessary pain and suffering do you believe occurs in heaven?
None.
Okay. Do you believe that unnecessary pain and suffering occurs here in this universe and on Earth?
Unnecessary. Can you define that? Can you define what you mean in that context?
Pain and suffering that could have been prevented or avoided.
Okay, answer that question and that'll be it.
No, God does not provide a world with unnecessary pain and suffering.
Okay, we'll stop right there. That'll be the end of the cross-examination rounds, and we're going to go to the final statements, starting off with Wi-Fi Gospel. You got 3 minutes, and I'll start it whenever you say your first word.
All right, very simply. The prompt is the Christian God good? Under my worldview, yes, obviously, the Christian God is good. Under Daniel's worldview, moral facts don't exist. So the statement, is the Christian God good? Neither true or false. It just is a statement. It's basically incoherent in Daniel's worldview. So by default, when I say God is good, even under Daniel's worldview, my preference isn't wrong, and this statement isn't false. Looks like I've won the debate. Appreciate you guys having me here. Thank you for my time.
Are you sure you want to end there? 2 minutes and 13 seconds left on the clock. Daniel, I will start your 3 minutes whenever you say your first word.
Certainly, thank you. And again, thank you so much for organising tonight. I again, never been part of a formal debate, so it's humbling to have been thought of someone worth inviting on. It means a ton, really. Yeah, again, right from the get-go, I recognise that it is frustrating. that we don't have an objective source of morality to which we can turn and derive a clear answer that everyone can agree to about what's morally right and wrong. I agree that that's frustrating. But it's what we observe being most likely to be the case. Throughout history and around the globe, the average person's moral compass tends to be in alignment with whatever religious doctrine it is that they've been indoctrinated into from their childhood, typically, or whatever it is that they convert into after having some kind of mystical experience that they couldn't think of a rational explanation for. That doesn't mean that they're right either. This discomfort that we feel with not having an objective source of morality to which we can turn in times of frustration, that can feel as though it's solved by submitting to some doctrine that people have believed for thousands of years. But again, that does not mean that that's true either. That is, again, another preference. Another preference. A preference for Christian morality is no more definitive of a good answer to the question, what's right or wrong, than a preference to any other religious doctrine. Nor is it better than a non-religious framework. Personally, and I encourage the audience to ask themselves sincerely, when this is all over and you go away and you start thinking about how this went, ask yourself sincerely, would you, if you had the power that Yahweh allegedly has, if we grant the Bible to be half accurate, if you had the power that Yahweh allegedly has, would you make the choices that they do? Would you refuse to contribute the way that they seem to continue refusing to tribute? Thank you for the gifts. This is absolutely wild. I don't know what to do with all that, to be honest. He chooses actively to allow suffering that he could, at no cost to himself, prevent, alleviate, ameliorate. He punishes people collectively for the actions of one or two people sometimes. He chooses to punish people for the actions of their ancestors. My father's been to jail for committing crimes against the state that I live in. Should I have to go to jail for that too? I understand that the judges that run the Australian court system are not all-powerful, all-knowing entities.
Finish your last sentence.
But I don't think that we should have to be, in order to use our ability to empathize and reason, to think about what we think is sincerely fair and right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. It is an honor to host both of you guys. Thank you very much. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and thank you everybody for the gifts. I appreciate that as well.
Okay. Yeah, my phone is running out of power, but I plugged it into the charger, so I can't use my mic anymore. But hopefully, you guys can still hear me. Dude, this is awesome. I have Daniel and Wi-Fi Gospel on my live debating. It's an honor to host these debates and be able to have everybody like listen in and learn something and contribute to having like that kind of live and bringing formal debates to TikTok. So thank you guys very much. I'm gonna put the poll up to see who
And
won.
I know things get heated during the debate, but absolutely no hard feelings, Daniel. And if you ever want to do another debate, I'm always game.
I presume that you're joking when you say that it would only be okay if all atheists were terminated under these hypotheticals. I don't know that it's necessarily helpful, but I do prefer to assume that you're only joking.
It's a joke, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that Yahweh's joking, if real, but that's another conversation perhaps.
Let's see. And I'm about to start the poll. And we have like 3 minutes. I could probably bring up a couple of guests before our next debate. And I'll probably do that, get some thoughts on like what the debate was like. And we'll go from there. Wi-Fi Daniel. And yep, I just started the poll. Everybody that's in the live, there's 257 people in here. Go and vote on the poll and tell me who you think won. But I'll bring up like one or two guests and then we'll get on to our like next debate. Hey, Lauren, you got anything to say about the debate or any questions you want to ask? Oh, no, I apparently you didn't.
I was so excited. I thought I was going to finally get to talk to Lauren. She's been in my chat for like years.
Oh,
Another time.
I think something happened.
She
She
is.
requested again.
Oh, good.
She's
Well,
back
I-
in teacupping.
I
Lauren,
like tea.
Wonder, is there like a connection issue maybe, or? I don't know. There might be a connection issue. Okay, Lauren, we might get to you later.
Thoughts and prayers.
Okay, I'll still do like two people. Um, I'll like select random. I got like a long list of people. Uh, sure. You know what? I'll do He Is Risen. Hey, you got any comments or questions about the debate He Is Risen?
Yeah, first of all, I think Daniel, you did very swimmingly well for this being your first debate. I was shocked when you said that this is your first debate. Wi-Fi, I think you lost points with the audience with the, if only if it was atheist. I think you lost points with that. But I do think that your rebuttal, I think that's really the defeater here, which is there is no objective standard, to which I do think Daniel did concede to. But in terms of just audience approval, like Daniel, I think you took it by that stance. So I think there's two ways to vote on this, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, bet. Thank you
I
for your
appreciate you,
candor. And I'll get to the next guest just due to time. But thank you, He Is Risen. We'll talk more in the future.
Very
Yeah.
kind of you, man. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no problem, dude. This is awesome. Like this is what I want to do all the time, and I even want to debate more people like this all the time. This is like surreal. Like what the heck? Like I got so many people in here and hosting formal debates on TikTok. This is my passion project.
You
But
do a good job with these events, Coco.
Hey, how's it going?
and I appreciate you guys because you want to work with me. People want to work with me. I appreciate the people that give me a chance and want to work with me and connect me with people. So I appreciate you guys for being here. But that one guy, what do you got to say? Any questions? Any pointers that you want to give? Any thoughts?
Hey, yeah, so just in regards to what the last guy said, I don't think you should be necessarily judging a debate based upon what the audience thinks. But Daniel, I think one of the main things, I think you did well if this is your first formal debate. I had my first formal debate a few weeks ago, and it's pretty stressful trying to get the structure down and everything. You did well, but I think the one thing that really got past you was the fact that Wi-Fi's entire point was that if everything just comes down to your own subjective opinion, you can't really call God evil by any metric. And then on top of that, when it comes down to your preferences, you can have a preference against God. It doesn't mean that he's evil. It just means that you disapprove of whatever you think he has done that is wrong. But wrong is all subjective in your standpoint as well. So,
Yeah, I certainly don't think that we have to accept Yahweh's described morality either. That's a choice that we can make. It's not necessary for us to do that, I don't believe. But I think you're very kind to encourage me for however I did today. It's lovely to meet you. I hope you jump in the live sometime.
definitely. I think I gave the host a follow already. But yeah, Daniel, I understand that. I don't want to take up too much time. Sorry, so I'll speed it up for the host.
That's cool.
I don't think you're getting what I'm saying though. Is that if the title of the debate is God evil, right? Or what was the exact title? How was it
Is
worded?
the Christian God good?
Oh, is the Christian God good? Okay. So whether or not he is taking the affirmative that the Christian God is good, and you are making you're taking the negative position that he's not in fact good. If you're defining good as any arbitrary thing based upon your own preferences, you don't really have any ground by which to say he's not, right?
I don't think anyone does. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
That's the thing.
that's where
I
you
think
kind
that
of lost it.
yeah, I don't mind that. I'm not really here to like collect W's or anything. I'm much more interested in having the kind of conversations that I wish I had people in my life to have these conversations with when I was still a Christian. I don't think that it is an easy process to fully accept that our subjectivity limits us when it comes to being able to claim certainty of what's right or wrong definitively. It wasn't easy for me to fully grapple with that when I was deconstructing. But ultimately, I had to ask myself whether I was more interested in believing things that were comfortable, or whether I believe things that I think are honestly actually more likely to be true. And I just don't honestly think that it's true that anyone has access to objective morals. Whether that's comfortable for anyone or not, I'm not really concerned with. I just don't think that it's true.
Do you think that we have access to objective truth?
I think that we can pursue it. And I think that sometimes we can even feel as though we've arrived at it. But I don't think that we can necessarily know that for sure. I wish we could.
So when you say you don't think that it's true that we can arrive at moral truths, right, or moral facts, isn't this kind of a self-defeating claim that you're making here?
And
because I've never claimed certainty.
Also, yeah, sorry, I'm taking up too much time. Yeah,
just
drop me, bring somebody else up. Yeah.
okay. But yeah,
I was just waiting to be dropped by the host. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're totally fine. And I'll follow you back. I appreciate the support. I'm definitely gonna follow you back. But okay, guys, Wi-Fi Gospel, Daniel, I'll drop you guys, and then we'll get on to the next debate. But it was an honor having two brilliant minds here. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, Daniel, Wi-Fi, thank you for giving us a great debate. That was very, very awesome. And hope to see you guys around. Daniel, I'm usually on your Sunday lives.
It's an honor.
Pretty much always there. Wi-Fi, I've seen many of your lives. I think I've been on 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, both of you guys, heavy hitters, and you guys are doing awesome. And thank you very much for doing what you did here. And yeah, we'll see you guys around. Thank you.
Wait, actually, before we drop you, let me do one of my friends a favor. We have like a couple minutes, but let me get Robbie Rob up here because we do have a couple minutes to spare, but he'll be the last one. Robbie, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I just want to be like, I'll be very quick with it. Obviously, look, Daniel clearly won that whole debate. I was actually kind of shocked that like Wi-Fi, the way that it came out, because I've heard he's supposed to be a good debater, but it didn't flow that well. Look, the issue that Wi-Fi had is he never actually presented an actual argument for objective morals being true, right? And so every time he kept on having a conversation with Daniel and providing different scenarios, he would just keep asking Daniel, what does he think about these situations? And Daniel would just say, subjectively, I feel that this is the situation, how I feel about it, right? It's my attitude towards a proposition. And then Wi-Fi just kept making declarative sentences, right? But he never gave an actual argument on why objective morals are true, right? And so Daniel can just reject that. And so that's the issue. That's why he lost the debate, right? That's it. Daniel won.
At the end of my opening statement, I gave a syllogism, just so you know. It's called an argument.
Look, either way, it was an absolute honor. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, audience. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here. Such a sick lineup. Like, it's been amazing. I caught Ian and Jason earlier. That was crazy. It was really, really good fun.
All right, can y'all hear me? I think so. What do you guys think? Talk to me. We'll chat up. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate y'all. What's up, Brandon, John, Eric, Jordan, Relevant, Jib, Dr. Love Green, Moldy. Appreciate y'all, guys. If y'all want to drop a like before heading out, I'm going to end the stream soon. ALC, what's up, dog? Appreciate you, John. Did well, did at 0 arguments. I'm going to go back and, during the month of April, review all of my debates. Yeah, I definitely want to, I'm going to be taking a break from debates and reading a lot of the lives of the saints, some theology. I'll be reviewing all of my debates, and I'm working on some other content as well. I might do it on this channel. I might create a whole new channel for it. Objective truth exists, but we can't know any objective truth. Saying that objective truth itself exists would be a knowledge claim. Now, if you were to say, I know objective truth exists, saying objective truth exists is a belief. Either that belief is knowledge or it's not. If you're saying it's not knowledge, then how do you know that objective truth exists? So you're either making a claim that you have no justification for, otherwise it would be knowledge, or you are in fact making a self-refuting claim by innately stating that you know objective truth exists. Yeah, I'm gonna hop in Jim Bob's Discord if anybody wants to talk. Yeah, saying that we can't know is an objective truth claim. Yeah, exactly. So if you're saying that we can't know an objective truth, how do you know that? And is it objectively true? Is it objectively true that we can't that we can't know anything to be objectively true? Oh, I'll just open up the VC on the stream. That's smart. Yeah, I got to put my
Yep. I still think it would have been
Wi-Fi.
possible to.
Hey, Wi-Fi.
What's
Hey,
up,
bro.
guys? I am on YouTube, so TOS, but other than that, it's cool. Say whatever your heart desires. I am open to any and all constructive criticism, always.
So we were just talking about it before you hopped in. My two criticisms and constructive criticism for you, I would have held his feet to the flames on his concession, which was literally a concession. And really just hammered it home. And then when he started to, and maybe you don't know how to shift that conversation yet, but when he was arguing against a monergistic God, he was arguing against a straw man. So he wasn't actually in good faith doing any sort of internal critique.
Brotherings, I have many things to telling you.
Oh,
Let me just address Schoolboy.
I cannot wait for the beginnings of the tellings.
I definitely need to. I was pretty much a Calvinist up until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
so I'm still working.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know.
Just for the audience sake as well. I have
Yep.
to definitely work through that more because I think as a Calvinist, I would have just bit the bullet and said, "Yeah, so what?"
Yeah, and that's where it's just like I would honestly say that atheists would be justified in their criticisms of Christianity if that were the case. The God of Calvinism is an absolute monster.
True. I think that irrespective of anything else, though, I think that the whole free will thing, you can delineate your will and God's will just simply based off of the fact that we would be God if it was our will that was his.
Yeah, like even his question about the red button that would cure cancer, that would still, from your perspective, when he's asking you this, you do not have complete access to what the objective good or evil in a particular situation would be unless it's been divinely revealed. So it would still only be a subjective truth, and we don't know. Like through that, in the Christian paradigm, if we look at it Christologically, the suffering is our salvation. Like that's the mystery of the cross. That is that dichotomy where
Which was the answer I was given, just not clearly enough. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Could I
because
also
if
answer
our
that as
goal
well?
is salvation, the suffering that we have on this earth is like there to purify us and to help us to salvation. So
I
it's
want.
actually a good thing.
I'd like to add a clarifier, as I feel like you could have pushed him very hard on evil itself being a privation or mode of existence, in that it's a movement of will. You did bring up free will, which was good, but I know that, and I was reading your chat a little bit. One of the goofy atheists in there brought up the Euthyphro dilemma, which is a false dilemma.
Right.
Because it doesn't assume God as the measuring stick, but rather God is the he has a different measuring stick telling us what is and isn't good, rather than God himself being what is good. These people, not very smart people.
The just quickly, you know
Also,
how he kept saying, "Oh, I don't have objectively, I can't answer that." Like, oh, objectively, he kept like throwing the word objective and that it's impossible kind of thing. You should have hammered the, "Oh, is that objective?" And then he
He
would have,
kept, yeah, he's
you know what
right.
I
They
mean?
did keep using that word too much, and he kept dodging. It was so
Yeah,
sneaky.
it was very bad. He's very, bro. I've watched Daniel for a while now since I've joined TikTok, and he's very smug and arrogant, and that's just like who he is. Like he would never answer any of those questions, and then he'd throw it to you, and he'd be like, "Well, is it a yes or no?" You should have just gone. I think you did a little bit. You were like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, didn't really give an
Also,
answer."
to be completely
well, what do you
honest,
guys think?
oh, I'm sorry. Hang on.
No,
Let's let
no, that's
Wi-Fi
fine.
respond
Well, I
before. Let's.
Yeah, no, I said it a little bit. I was trying to catch him on the objective thing because he was, which is why I brought up the ice cream situation, because he freely answered that because he knew that he could answer that
Yeah,
without
yeah.
any consequence. And then I tried to point that out, that the reason he did that was because he knew that it would make him look bad by answering consistently with the PDF question.
Well,
Yep.
the
Yeah, well,
whole
when he's like, "Oh, I don't know objectively," I don't think anyone can know objectively. It's like, okay, well, is that an objective statement about whether we can know that objectively? And
Right.
then
Yeah,
he's
you
going to say
can't
honest,
no.
assert. You
he
can't
kept
assert anything.
he kept trying not to make positive or affirmative statements the whole time. I was
Mm.
listening to it. Not a single time did he want to actually give any full, like, objective answer to things. And even when he brought up scripture, I know when they bring up the idea of grape in scripture, I know exactly what part of the Old Testament they're referring to, but it's not in there. And these
Yeah.
people,
Proverbs,
they like to
which is wrong.
they like to smugly throw these things in there because it appeals to lesser learned audiences, such as the
Yep.
TikTok masses. Because they're like, oh, they hear all these platitudes. Also, not a single argument made in his opening statement. It was emotional appeals and platitudes. No
Yep.
argument.
Yeah, I
Dude,
would
he
have
was,
hammered that.
Also,
I would have hammered that home a little bit harder in your closing statement that his whole everything that he did in that debate tonight was nothing but emotional appeal and appeal to majority. Like at the end of the day, so like he was hinging on appealing to the audience and
Yeah. Well,
like
Do you think it's bad to
he's
have a short closing? Because I wanted it to have one
no,
focus
it's
on
nah,
not
this
bad.
is why he lost.
nah,
Because this.
he was bad faith, bro. Like it wouldn't, the
Look,
debate was the way it was set out. There's
I
nothing you could do.
yeah,
it boils down to him saying, well, if the audience is honest, they'll agree with my emotions, and it was you giving actual arguments.
Yeah.
But
yep,
this
Well,
person is, yeah.
even his answer on the PDF file question you gave at the start was not an affirmative or a negative. Like he was like, "Oh, I believe it's wrong. I
Right.
believe it to be wrong." It's like
No,
that's not an answer,
and
dude.
Wi-Fi
Is it
called
wrong
that
or
in
is
his
it not?
opening statement too.
that's
He
Yeah,
called that in his
yeah, yeah.
opening statement.
Because that's literally every time you talk to somebody about subjective morality, that's instantly their answer is, "Well, I think it is,"
Yeah.
or "I believe it is." Yeah.
well, that's where you have
Well,
to hammer.
here's
You can't
oh,
let
my
him
bad.
get.
Yeah,
Imagine if you would have said to him, Wi-Fi, you think it's subjective that it's wrong. So,
Yeah.
like,
the
bruh.
guy Honestly, he didn't seem like a very bright individual. I feel like if he had a back and forth debate with one of us, he'd be pretty scared.
Thanks, John.
The thing that I kind of wanted to, I guess,
Well,
ask
look,
you guys about, if you would agree or
look,
disagree, when he
Wi-Fi.
was trying to say,
Look. I'm not saying that because it was a formal
Just kidding.
debate. I'm saying if it was an informal debate, and you heard me debate here, I bully people. I would have bullied him.
What did you think of my atheist joke? Was it a funny joke, or did I lose points?
I liked it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I didn't hear it because I was switching to TikTok.
It was just he kept asking me obvious questions. Where were they? They were like, is it bad
press
that
the
kids
button
have
and-
cancer
yeah.
and stuff like that? And he said,
That
"Would-
was so stupid.
Would you press a
Well,
button?"
he can't answer if it's
if you-
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would-
that kind of goes
Like,
to what we were talking about the other
You-
night with like we are made in the image and likeness of God. God has free will, so we have free will. Going against our free will would be God going against his own nature. So it would create a contradiction within the paradigm if that were the case. So, like I said, he was arguing against this monergist position, like essentially the God of Calvinism.
Well,
Yeah,
you didn't even know. You didn't
Bryce,
even know
well,
the position.
I keep seeing you unmuting and then muting back up.
Oh yeah, man. So I just say my only constructive criticism is the lack of if God not real, why good thing happen? You know what I'm saying?
If
It's
God
just
not
S tier,
real,
and it
why
confuses
anything?
the living crap out of people, bro. It's amazing.
Well, it's not
It's
even
so
good.
funny.
It's like not good or bad. Why happen?
It's a literal flashbang to an atheist. Like they don't even know
Yeah.
how to answer that question.
No, it made me. I had to think about it. So yeah, that would have been good.
I could probably answer that one. If God not real, why good thing happened? The atheist would probably say because we made it happen.
You presuppose good.
We did the good. The good is us.
Did you make you?
What?
The
Did
It
joke
might
you
have
was
been
make
good
you?
to.
No, you know what, schoolboy? My parents made me. But
Did you make your parents?
You
no,
know
their
what?
parents made them.
What
No,
might
but
have
in
been
all
good as
seriousness,
well
though,
is to
I
get.
didn't see the debate until the end, so I wasn't able to actually, see a lot of it. Schoolboy sent it to me like 10 minutes before it freaking ended.
Yeah, I
Great.
Because
kind of
he's Uber
spaced
like
out.
that.
I kind of spaced out on the invites. I always forget to.
You're
I think
such a
something
bigot.
that would have helped as well is getting him to provide you what the definition of good is.
Yeah. If I press him on his
oh no, he
definition.
can't, dude. He can't.
Well, the thing
He would
was, the
just
whole debate
reduce
he was
it to a collectivist,
Suffering.
secular humanist
Totalitarianism
view.
or something.
Yeah.
I don't think he would. I think he would reduce it to my preferences because the whole debate tonight was my preferences.
Yeah.
But
well. Here's one of the
my
positive
And
claims
that's
he
preferences would
did make,
reduce
though.
to that.
the
My
one big thing.
preferences would probably
If
reduce
you
to
have
that.
a different
One of the
preference than
positive.
somebody, it doesn't mean that their preference is wrong.
Well, I understood that with the ice cream argument that you were trying to throw out there, but realistically speaking, if this guy took an affirmative, like made any kind of positive statement, you could have gotten him on it so easily.
No, but he
he's
did.
so slippery.
He did. The one positive statement he made was that God is not good. Well, he didn't make the statement per se, but he implied it, was that God was not good because he allows certain bad things to happen. And the
Well, he
thing is
brought up.
that this is what I was trying to point out, is that you should have forced him. I mean, you couldn't really have done it with the way that the debate was formatted. But like if it was open panel, like Jan was saying, um, you could have forced him into a position where he had to actually provide you with some sort of evidence that God's allowing these things to happen without just cause or
Yeah.
Wait,
without good
yeah,
reason.
because
So
he's
I think
wait,
presupposing the
I, wait,
unnecessary nature of like whatever that action is.
wait. I
yeah.
actually have a question about that though. All right. So wait, I know I know we kind of like just rag on the problem of evil, but I was talking to my teacher, my philosophy teacher earlier, right? And I wasn't real. So he was telling me that it's either the problem of evil is a problem for people or it isn't. And I was confused because I was like, I don't really see how. Like, I get that part, but I don't really see how uh letting sorry, according to him, if God.
Omar,
Oh wait, what happened?
you're just spinning your tires.
Wait,
Spit
what?
it out, bro. Just spit it out. Like, what
I
is
got.
it?
Wait. Oh. Yeah. Um. Damn, I forgot it.
Hey,
You
while
know,
you think of it, I got two critiques for Wi-Fi. Okay, so two critiques. One is when Daniel was saying, I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was about the question of what did Adam and Eve have that they like? What did they not have before the fall? What did they lack? Right. Um, according to Orthodoxy, they didn't have. They weren't tested in virtue, and so they had. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. They definitely had grace. They
yeah.
they were still made in the image of God. They had an extraordinary amount of grace, but they weren't tested in virtue, and that was the reason for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is to cultivate that virtue.
Well, that and
Um,
they had not yet been perfected, as even prior to, if the fall had not happened, we still believe that Christ would have been incarnate as to uh, allow for true theosis and connection with God, like the kenosis prior to the theosis. Um, there's also, because Jav, that's a good point that you brought up. There's also the lack of mention on the atheist side from the moment offered to Adam and Eve for repentance prior to the exile from the Garden of Eden, um, which there is a lot of the church fathers, I think it's St. John Chrysostom specifically too, that says a lot about this. Um, their the biggest issue was that Adam and Eve did not repent, but rather put the blame onto each other and the serpent when God had given them the opportunity to do so.
I think another route, and it may take more time for you to understand this too, Wi-Fi, just being better versed with our theology, would be to challenge his notion of good, like, and what the referent is, like where is his standard actually derived from. That would undermine it, and then you would be able to step in with the positive account and ask him, are you actually performing an internal critique of our worldview or not? Because it seems like a word concept fallacy, because when he implies something is good, it is his personal preferences. So to really highlight that and question that by asking clarifier questions, even during a cross-examination, is fair. Like, that's fair game in a debate. And it may be viewed as a dirty tactic, but it would eat up some of his time, some of his, and it's a fair thing to do, is to ask these clarifier questions.
Yeah.
Speaking of questions, I finally figured out my two questions.
Oh, before you do that, can I just finish with the last critique? It's
Yeah, for
super
sure,
quick.
dude, for sure.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
so the last thing is near the end. You made the statement that the question is that the question was a statement or something like that. You said that the question, the prompt, is the Christian God good? Right? So just a technical thing. Questions are not true or false. Now, it's true. I think what you're trying to say is that questions can be framed upon false presuppositions, right?
Yeah, I messed up.
That's right.
I meant to say the
But
statement,
questions
yes,
themselves
that God is
are
good.
not statements, right?
Yeah.
Statements are synonymous with declarative sentences or propositions. And so if he was trained in logic at all, he would have taken advantage of that and been like, bro, it's a question, it's not a statement. I didn't make a proposition when I'm asking the question. So just for the future, questions are not true or false.
Omar, no one cares about
can.
the
Daedalus,
Yeah.
$20, dude. You're a G. Thank you for that. And I don't know. I don't even have these alerts set up. It won't show me if you wrote anything. So just text it to me in VC chat and I'll read it.
Okay.
All right, I finally figured out my question. So the first one, I know that we clown on the problem of evil a lot, but I mean, if God has these triomny traits, doesn't it necessarily follow that bad things do not occur?
No,
I'm asking because I want to get.
we are
Oh, go ahead.
we are secondary causes. This is super basic. Like, we have
Yeah,
free will. Like, evil is a privation of that good.
Yeah, what do you mean by God has these traits? God is what is good, not just has good traits. It doesn't make sense.
All right. Well, that answers my first question, but my second question now is about tag. Oh, all right. So, in I know that all right. If we affirm the first premise that God is a necessary precondition for knowledge, what if the atheist says, okay, well, what about this time in the Bible where God lied about, I don't know, name a certain thing? What
God,
exactly do
no,
we do?
God doesn't lie. That's presupposing their interpretation already. Anyway, before we get into like Q&A about whatever, let's focus right now on Wi-Fi's debate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um. So there is something that I wanted to kind of get into a little bit, which I think might help you, is modes of existence, being what it is, and the ideas of potentiality and actuality, or even the quality of something, or states or actions, being that evil, or the
How is this
idea
on the
of a
stream?
movement
Is this
of the
better?
will away from God, is a mode of existence. It's a type of action. Um, it's not so much as it is something that is ontologically existent. It's a mode of existence for the human being. It's important to bring up. Schoolboy brought it up a few times already. Secondary causality. God respects our free will, um, because He gave it to us, as a reflection of His own free will, and He is a primary cause. We have the ability here on earth to move or align our will with God, which is again a mode of existence, or to move it away from God. It's like heat and cold in thermodynamics. Something does not get cold, something loses heat. Um, it's a loss of something.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, the same way is just like the like cold and heat, or light and darkness. The darkness can do nothing to impede on light, right? Like you turn on a light, the darkness isn't going to fight back against the light. The darkness only existed because of the lack of the light in the first place. That is good and evil. Evil is the absence of good, the privation of it.
We have a question from Eric.
What is it?
If God respects our free will, why is the consequence of using that will in opposition to His own damnation?
It's not. First of all, this is under the presupposition that God is the one damning us. The damnation is of our own accord, being that God does not throw us or chuck us in hell, but we put ourselves there. It's also under the presupposition of already assuming what hell is, when realistically speaking, what hell is, especially from the paradigm of Orthodox Christianity, is
Test.
the rejection of the love of God. Um,
Is
the
audio
many
better now?
saints say that the gates to hell are locked from the inside, being that once we're there, we refuse even to continue to move closer to God despite feeling His love. We see this even in Scripture. Forgive me if I'm long winded. We see this even in Scripture, where it mentions God as an all consuming fire, or the lake of fire, etc. Things like this. Some people will feel that fire is warmth and love, and some will feel it as torment, in the idea of shame, because even gnashing of teeth is a sign of insanity, not a sign of torment, of physical torment.
Yeah, many saints talked about it. The same fire that will heat the iron, and the iron will take on properties of the fire. It will glow red hot with that heat. It's the same fire that will burn up wood. So, like, what are you made of? What's the state of your soul?
Exactly.
can add on to that too a little bit. So y'all probably know like Frank Turk. He's more like a Protestant though, but he says something good about this where he says, "God loves you so much that He won't force you to be in His presence against your will."
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a respecting of the free will, being that we are secondary causes here on Earth. It's kind of already that question already assumes a lot of things. One, God is the one damning us. Two, a presupposition of hell, and an idea of metaphysics that we don't hold to.
And I'm asking these questions as well. These are a guy in here, Eric Smith, just because I'm interested in them as well. Not that they particularly pertain to the debate, although that question did come up. But just one more from Eric. How can God have free will? If God always chooses the best possible action by His nature, how can He meaningfully choose between alternative actions?
God does not choose things in the sense that he does not like pick and choose as we do. He's outside of temporal reality, but God is the standard for good, being that we're created in His image and likeness, a reflection of. I want to say image and likeness. Realistically, we're created in His image. We're working towards His likeness, being working towards the will of God.
Yep.
You know.
Also,
And then
I'd
also,
like to add that God doesn't deliberate. He
Yeah.
doesn't have to figure out the best means of how to will something. So there's also a term for this, I believe, called a gnomic will. God
Yep.
does not have a gnomic will.
Yep. A gnomic mode of willing. So the and I actually, John or Jub, you might be able to help me out, or Ephraim. I was thinking about this earlier today. In the gnomic will itself, like the fallen state of our will, it's a fallen mode of being, but it's only due to a lack of communion with God, correct? So it's not actually an ontological change. So when we say that Christ doesn't have a gnomic will, it's because his human nature there's a perichoresis, there's a communicado idiomatum between the two natures in the person of Christ. So that would obviously obliterate any notion of a gnomic will, correct?
The ontological change is in all of creation, being that death and basically entropy enters into creation. The idea of deliberation, like look at it even in the
But
case
is
of
that even technically an ontological change, or is it because of the falling away of communion with God as the sustainer, the perfecter of these things? It's
Yes, you have to look at it in the case of,
even in the garden, even at the moments of creation, they still required God's sustaining of them. They weren't self-subsistent.
well, of course,
So
everything is sustained off of the energies of God, whether in the fallen state or not. But
right,
look at it in terms of aeonic beings, such as angels and demons. They have full knowledge of the consequences of their actions, and those that chose to go against God will not be changing their free. They had free will as well. They will not be changing their will.
right, because
They're
they don't experience time the same way that we do. Their will is fixed in a sense.
Yeah,
Like
in a
they
sense
have a
it
free
is.
will, but that decision was a fixed decision for all quote unquote time.
Yeah, we are not, and thank God for this, in the same state as them, which is why we would, if we continue on the path towards God, be higher than the angels and command the angels, because we were created for that purpose, for being stewards. You know.
Yep. Yeah, I saw
Also,
Well,
a
I
saint
thought
or a
Daniel
priest.
did just
I,
fantastic.
Oh no,
he got the voice changer.
dude.
Well,
but I
I
saw a saint or a
love that
priest
he
talking
doesn't
about
think moral facts exist.
Oh my goodness. I hope that's not real.
no man, it's so
But
funny.
I saw a saint or a priest. I forget exactly who it was a while back talking about like that's why the demons hate us so much because they can't repent. They're jealous of the fact that we can fall, but we can still get back up. And they hate us for that. They hate us that God loves us and has that mercy on us as these temporal beings that do experience time. And that's why they...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know how Saint Maximus describes gnomic will.
I know that it was kind of a progressive explication of it.
It's more of a human's capacity or deliberation between
Right.
things that are good and evil.
Not even just that, a perceived good and evil.
Yes, let's put it in terms of the eschaton, right? If we're looking at the eschaton, it's no longer going to be a choice between good and evil. It's going to be a choice between multiple goods.
Yep.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think it's a global conspiracy. I think Daniel loaded the room with a bunch of atheists.
Yo.
And they were just crying, spurting in the comments. And if it wasn't for the lizard people, I would have won easily. It's all conspiracy.
That is amazing, dude.
How the hell did you do that?
What fucking voice changer is that, dude? What the fuck?
Oh, that's so good.
No, that's gotta be some sort of like AI.
Yo, the future is gonna be wild. Holy moly.
Bryce, you got a potato mic.
Wi-Fi.
I do.
No, that's better.
I hope these things have been useful to you, and I hope it because the more you read of the lives of the saints and Orthodox theology, I feel like the more you'll understand a lot of these things, because these are not like light topics.
Yeah.
Especially getting into descriptions about eschatology and aeonic.
The gnomic will.
Yeah, gnomic will. It's not easy, you know.
Yeah, no, it's.
Well, here, would you guys
muted.
agree or disagree with the most simple explanation I'm about to give? That God has absolute free will in the sense that he can choose whatsoever he pleases, and that anything that he would choose would be in line with what is good.
Well, it would be
Because
he
good
can do
is-
anything, but he can do anything but go against his own nature.
Real quick, there's someone
So-
from my
exactly.
chat wanting to come in here.
I was just trying to answer it super simply. Like, because you
Someone
guys were
from
getting
your
into
chat?
like aeonic. I've never heard any of this.
The dude who was asking the
Someone
free
from-
will questions wanted to come in here and press you on it.
Okay, let me make him cry. Let me bully him.
Hey, schoolboy, release the Albanian, please.
Alhamdulillah.
Albanian. I thought Albanians were like 70 IQ though.
John, did you?
I'm kidding. Don't ban me.
Did you see my comment in the side chat? I said there's a reason that their national banner is a literal red flag.
It's because it represents all the bloods of Serbs we killed.
No, look, you don't even. Okay, that's
don't
not
qualify.
even. You don't qualify.
There was a Serb on Bryce's live last night, like super Serbian, like wicked high energy, absolutely hilarious. He was Orthodox, and I just asked him at one point, I was like, "What do you think of Kosovo?" And he was like, "I don't want to talk about it."
Welcome, Eric.
Alhamdulillah.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, habibi.
Well, I don't know how welcome I feel being here to be bullied and made to cry.
No, look,
What do
I
you mean,
bully
bro?
everyone. I even bullied Wi-Fi. Like,
He
don't
did
take it
bully.
personally.
Sometimes bullying is good.
You'll only cry if you actually stand next to John, and it's because he
Yeah.
smells like onions.
I don't smell of
It's
onions.
Albanian, I mean.
I smell of cosmoline, okay, not onions.
Bullying is good for your humility, bro. It's all good.
It make you feel better. Trust, brother. It's okay.
Very good onion smell, no?
Okay, what's your question?
So the thing about God's free will, it doesn't seem that the idea of will can meaningfully apply to an omniscient being.
What idea of will?
The ability to decide between alternative courses of action.
Alternative course, so like a gnomic will? Yeah, God does not have a gnomic will.
Okay, why should
We
I
answered this.
accept that there exists any other definition of will than the ability to choose between
Thank you for
alternatives?
helping him get in the VC, guys. Appreciate
Why
you.
should you accept? Because you only have access to a gnomic will. You do not have access to an absolute free will.
Okay, but how is that a meaningful term? Like, what is an
How is it?
absolute free will?
Yeah, one that is of nature of God, which is ultimately good, and our will is either to move towards that or away from that. We deliberate. Hold on, we deliberate between choices because we're temporal beings. We do not have an idea of like all of time and space. God does not deliberate between choices.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
understand that.
ignorance is a condition. Ignorance is a condition of deliberation.
Yeah,
So
so
since God is not ignorant, he doesn't have to deliberate about what he already knows. So there's no wavering between choices.
exactly. So my contention is that a will can be ultimate or a will can be free, but it cannot simultaneously be
Oh, so
both.
you're just making a word concept fallacy with our definition of what we mean by free will.
What do you think? What do you think free will means?
God will actualize whatever he wills. So is that not the ultimate freedom?
I don't believe so, not if he's perfect.
Why would that not be the ultimate freedom if he's perfect? How does that follow?
Because freedom by its nature is a constraint. So, like, to God, the number of possible futures is equal to one. So
That's
there's nothing
literally the opposite of what that
between.
is. What?
Yeah, freedom
I
is
just
is
defined
the
the thing
the
as
the
its exact as its
Hold on,
exact
Taffy,
contradiction.
Taffy. Hold on, Habibi.
Sorry.
Leave it to the big boys. Go ahead, schoolboy.
freedom is a lack of constraint.
Not freedom, perfection.
Perfection.
I mean, are you ascribing your finite understanding of perfection to the infinite?
Well, I think since we're all humans, we're all prescribing our finite understanding of everything to whatever we interact with.
Right. So do you understand that from the Orthodox perspective, we have what's referred to as apophatic theology when it comes to the nature or essence of God? That we understand that we cannot grasp it fully, or we cannot grasp it, and we can only speak negatively of it. He is infinite.
He's literally inexhaustible.
Yeah.
Like you can't say, oh, perfection means he's limited. He's inexhaustible by his own nature.
Right. And we're also not Platonists. We don't believe perfection is stasis. That is a Platonic understanding of what perfection is stasis or staticness, of unmovingness. We don't adopt that metaphysic in terms of God. Now we would say that he doesn't change. He doesn't change identity, his nature, right? But we're using that in a negative sense, right? We look around and we see creatures change constantly. I mean, there's identity over time, but we also waver between what's natural and unnatural, right? That's the gnomic will. That's a condition of the fall, and that's also a cause of our ignorance. Or ignorance is a necessary condition for deliberation. So God doesn't have to deliberate about what he foreknows, and he also doesn't go against his nature, right? So there's perfect freedom within his nature.
He doesn't suffer from he doesn't experience imperfections or moral weakness because he is the standard.
I like what Jay's phrase that he uses is he transcends logical antinomies.
Yeah.
Does that just mean that logic doesn't apply to God?
Apply to that, what, like he transcends logic. He's the reason for logic.
But like, you know, could God perform a paradox?
Could
I mean,
God
that's kind of what we mean by saying he's beyond the antinomies. To something being super irrational is not the same as something being irrational. Does that make sense?
No.
So you think
Or
a
at least I don't
paradox?
understand
You
it.
think a paradox is an actual contradiction?
With my understanding of logic, it appears to be, at least.
That's
How
the
about this?
definition.
Let me put it another way. Logic isn't behind God. Logic isn't grounding God. It's the other way around. As Wi-Fi says, it's not about what do you say, Wi-Fi? Where it's not about there's a reason for God. It's God is the reason for a reason, or something like that.
Shout out to Father
When
Deacon
you
Ananias.
when you said that that a paradox seems like a contradiction, that's kind of the definition of a paradox. Is it seems absurd or self-contradictory, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not really when you tease it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So here's my issue. Assuming all of these things are true about God and he's above logic and all of these things, then how can humanity make meaningful statements about what God wants us to do, God's desires, God's plans? You're defining an entity that is totally incomprehensible
No.
and then asserting
We're
to
not defining an
comprehend
entity.
things about it.
No.
We're not
No.
defining God.
You're already making a lot of assumptions. One, all knowledge, you have to understand that all knowledge itself is revelatory. All knowledge, whether from divine revelation or from revelation through the senses to the individual, all knowledge is revelatory.
Okay,
God,
I'd like to
hold
hop in
on,
there.
hold on, let me finish. God has revealed himself through time and has remained historically consistent with his nature and who he has told us he is throughout all of time. So he is knowable. You can know God. He is a personable being. It's not an impersonal God that just transcends and we have no knowledge of at all. We know God through apophatic and cataphatic theology, especially in the Orthodox Church. We know God through the distinction between his essence, which is unknowable, and his energies, which are knowable. You are making assumptions based on a worldview that we don't hold.
Okay.
And usually when we define something, we're talking about something's essence, what something is, right? So what he's saying, what John is saying is that we're not defining God. We're not saying what exactly God is, because to define something means to put limits or boundaries. And we would never approach God that way in his nature. So, but we can say what God is not. And we can say what God is through his names, which are not his essence, right? Those are the actions of God interoperating within nature. And so we're not defining God. All the omnis, by the way, are through negativa or through negation. God is not changing. God is not finite. God is not limited, right? So we can see that the negation can be, and even the negation, we would never approach to say that is defining God, strictly speaking.
Well said.
So
Well,
from the
hello.
outset, you're saying we're defining an entity. No, we're not.
Yeah, even when we speak about God positively or in a cataphatic way, saying God is love, merciful power, that's God's nature. That's who God is.
Okay,
Or
so
or rather what God is, not who. You know. I mean, yeah, who works, yeah. Who God is.
okay, so I've seen Wi-Fi make a lot of hay about like how one justifies knowledge. How do you justify knowledge? Like knowledge of like the reality of your perceptions.
Through divine
If we
revelation.
entertain the contrary, and the contrary is something like the atheist or skeptical worldview, we can rule it out as a possibility for knowledge. So like if we entertain a certain metaphysic or epistemology theory or even ethical theory and it leads to an absurdity, we can hand wave it away as a non-serious worldview, right? And that leaves us with that's what he means by he says impossibility of the contrary. We're comparing one worldview, metaphysic or epistemology or ethic to another, right? And so we set up a disjunct in the comparison, we rule one out, and by the impossibility of the contrary, we know that the contrary is the case. But he's also pairing it with a positive case about the Christian worldview. So it's not just the negation of the contrary, it's also in light of the positive case, which usually when Christians provide arguments, they provide a positive case, right? So we would argue basically the same way as Wi-Fi, that ultimately God is the necessary condition for knowledge, and since we have
Exactly,
knowledge,
Daedalus.
therefore God. And there's further argumentation that goes behind those premises, but that is the entry point into this whole discussion.
A more in-depth, before, just one more thing. A more in-depth thing is it's an entire paradigm in which we're describing, not just bits and pieces of one. Whereas the atheists would have to do a lot of metaphysical bootstrapping and take bits and pieces of different paradigms in order to make one like seemingly cohesive worldview when picked apart it's not. This is the entire paradigm for Orthodox Christianity, being we're created in his image and likeness, being that we are triadic beings. We have knowledge of his essence and knowledge of his energies, not the essence is unknowable. We have knowledge of who Christ is and Logos theology, and everything being first in the divine mind, and us having access to that through us having access to the mind through the faculty of the nous. It's a full paradigm. It's not just bits and pieces of one.
That's right. That's an excellent way of qualifying it. Just real quick before I let you speak, Eric. When we set up an either or with the impossibility of the contrary, we can use an entire paradigm, but often in debate, it's about a certain metaphysic or epistemic theory that we're dissecting or we're testing. And so, like when using tonight's debate as is there an objective good or is the Christian God good? Wi-Fi was going in and testing to see if Daniel can actually have access to an objective, like meta-ethical kind of good, which is a necessary condition for knowledge to even work. That there's some that we ought to be consistent, that we ought to be truthful, that's an objective fact that makes this even work. If we can rule out the contrary, that if we entertain this sort of like total subjective ethic, we can, by the impossibility of the contrary, rule that out, right? And so that makes Daniel's system fail because he's entertaining a fundamentally contradictory and even behaviorally inconsistent position. And so it's like John said, it's about the entire paradigm, but it's also about taking pieces, because it's really hard to present an entire paradigm in one argument, right? It's just not really like exhaustively is what I mean. It's really hard to do that because of our limitations as creatures.
And if he appeals to sense data,
Let's
he's
let
just
him
going to
respond.
be.
Let's let him respond real quick before we overwhelm. Because we've been talking a lot.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, there's a few points here. So I like your description of the process, but would it be fair to describe that process as a logical one? You're using logic?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you take logic as a first principle, or do you have some justification for the validity of logic itself?
We don't believe in this idea of classical foundationalism or first principle or self-evident axioms, because if we were to hold to the same standard, we could say God is the self-evident axiom and we don't have to justify it. So logic is not a first principle. Logic has to be justified. And from the atheist paradigm and perspective, there is no justification for logic, they just grant themselves it.
Okay, so then what justifies logic itself?
God. We've been over this.
Okay, and by what means are you aware of the existence of God?
One, through cataphatic theology, apophatic theology. Through, if you want to talk about the paradigm, through the faculty of the nous, being that we are created as triadic beings made from nous, spirit, and body. God is also triadic in being the Trinity. We have consistent revelation throughout all of history. There's multiple ways to go back to this. But if you
Okay.
want to do an internal, hold on, if you want to do an internal critique of the system, you're going to actually have to adopt the full Orthodox system.
Well, I'd like to try just chasing my tail for a minute if that would be acceptable.
Why would you, if it, look, if it's
So,
not going to be an
by
internal
what means are
critique
you aware of all of these theologies and such?
through revelation, what all knowledge is revelatory, not personal revelation, such as God is speaking to me directly, but revelation through the faculty of the nous that gives us access to things like logic, like metaphysics, things like mathematics, things like language, etc. These are not physical things, they're metaphysical. And all of these metaphysical things, which are unchanged, like things like logic, which are unchanging principles, which are mind dependent, have to be located in a non changing universal mind. Being God, us being made in his image and likeness, we have access to these things because of the faculty of the nous, through the theology that has been revealed at the beginning of creation to today's day and age, historically consistent throughout all of the oral,
That's just
physical,
data with
liturgical, and
extra facts.
it's not, well, that's the issue, is it's not one thing, it's a paradigm, it's the whole thing.
Which you found out about through sense data.
Oh boy.
No.
Listen, buddy. Listen. Just because we start temporally with a principle like logic, it doesn't, just because
When
we
Jib says, "Listen, buddy," you
epistemically
know
or
it's about to go
temporally
down.
start with that, it doesn't make that principle ontologically superior. Same with sense data. Like, here's an example. I can try to prove God from a cup or a pen. I can abstract through like the categories and transcendental categories up to God to prove that God is the necessary condition to make this experience even possible. Just because I use that cup in my temporal succession of the argument does not make the cup ontologically superior or my sense data ontologically superior. That's a category error. That, yeah, we're using logic, but it doesn't make it some sort of like ultimate principle that is God. Does that make sense?
The worldview interprets the sense data. So sense data on itself isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, if you start with sense data, you've already begun with autonomous epistemology rather than theonomous. So you are now the necessary precondition for logic. Well, guess what? You're finite. You don't actually ground things like logic. Sense data doesn't ground things like logic. Sense data is pure, it's data. It doesn't give you how to interpret it.
But as a matter of practical reality, you all did start with sense data. At some point, you were an infant.
What is practical reality? Please tell me.
Also, did you not hear anything I said? It's a category error. Just
Yeah.
because I start with sense data, let's just grant that. I start with sense
Exactly.
data.
Practical
But your
reality.
Just for the sake of
justification is
argument.
circular.
It's assuming a metaphysics.
How is it the case that because I start with sense data, that therefore sense data is ontologically prior or superior to everything else? Explain that.
So whatever your starting point is prior to the things that come after it. Not
That's a
necessarily
category error.
superior.
You're not getting the point. You're literally making a fallacy. Just because I temporally start with something in an argument, it doesn't make the starting premise or the subject ontologically superior in an ontological sense. That's a category error. I can prove God from a cup or a pen. It doesn't make the cup or pen prior to God, just because I temporally started with that in the argument. The
Also,
argument, the content of the
Your
argument is
argument
really
wasn't of
referencing.
superior or prior, it's circular. Your sense data makes you aware of God, and God justifies your sense data.
And what's wrong with a circle? Is there something ontologically wrong with a circle? Like if I drew a circle on a piece of paper, is that a fallacy, the geometric shape?
Go tell us the meaning of words without assuming meaning of words.
it also, starting
Escape.
with sense data, even if we were to say that it's sense data which gives us knowledge of God, uh, whether or not that's circular or recursive, because all worldviews, atheist or Christian or Muslim, at the very foundation of them, are themselves recursive. Whether or not they are viciously circular and unjustifying, well, that's where we get into the paradigm comparison. You saying we begin with sense data? All right, cool. Where in the sense data does it tell you what the sense data is saying? How do you know sense data tells you how to interpret sense data? Are you
Well,
using a paradigm, or are you just saying, oh, the sense data interprets itself?
What you may be doing is saying that you have a hammer and you're just using a hammer. What we're asking is like, we're also using this hammer, but we can give an account of how we got this hammer and how
And
this
if
hammer
we
came to be.
And another critique, if we were to rely solely on sense data, guess what? Your senses can be deceived. You're not immune to falling into illusions or any kind of things that you might have seen incorrectly or perceived incorrectly. So we don't begin with sense data. But even if it were the case that we began with sense data, we have a justification for it. You don't.
but see, no, you don't have any more or less justification than any other system of
Yeah,
epistemology.
that's an assertion. Can you
can't
show
say
me
that.
how? Yeah, okay, that's an assertion based on a system with no justification. Can you tell me how you justify sense data existing in the first place?
Because once you follow a system of epistemology back far
Can you
enough,
can you answer the question?
axioms.
Can you answer the question? How do you justify sense data in the first place?
Well, that's what we're trying to discuss.
Well,
What
I'm asking
justifies
you.
sense
Can you
You
answer the
justify
question?
it with sense data, right? So sense data justifies sense data.
There's
That's a
Billiam. What up,
vicious
Billiam?
circle. Hold on, don't interrupt. That's a
Sorry.
vicious circle.
No, what I
No?
I follow the chain exactly as you do to
No,
the
no,
point where
you
logic
do not.
exists.
You do not. From this view, you're saying sense data would justify sense data. Guess what? That's a vicious circle. That's a fallacy.
So, in my view, sense data is justified by logic. We here so far we're at the same place.
Wait, sense data is justified by logic? How does that work?
Like the notion that sense data corresponds to some external reality.
All right, let's test this. Can your senses be deceived?
Yes,
All right, great. So how are they justified by logic if they can be deceived?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
If your senses can be deceived, how does logic justify your senses?
What's up, Daniel?
Well, that's basically Descartes, cogito ergo sum.
I had a debate
Okay,
earlier.
great.
If you're asking
Oh,
what your
wonderful.
missed,
Okay, God exists, therefore, well, God
Eric
exists,
started asking
therefore I
questions
am.
about God's free will.
Okay.
I think therefore I am, by the way, just so you
And then
know,
it turned
that's
into like a
solipsism. There's
precept
no
argument.
justification behind it. You're already okay, let's even grant that. Okay, you, the self. How do you justify having knowledge of the self?
Well, not even that, John.
Yeah.
How do you know what logic is with sense data?
Oh, that's a good question. Where is logic found in sense data?
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to mention that he's still not understanding the category error. Bringing up cogito ergo sum is literally Descartes committing the that category error fallacy where he starts temporally with his self and his epistemology temporally. Therefore, the self is the ontological primary fundamental belief that is the highest, most certain possible thing. And he's saying that in kind of like an ontological sense.
Yeah.
So again, our friend Eric is not understanding the error of temporally starting with something like, well, okay, we grant Eric cogito ergo sum. How is it necessarily
Thank you,
that the
Daniel.
self
Appreciate
is
you.
primary in some ontological sense just because Descartes temporally started with it in his argument?
Because the
How?
self is the only thing to which I have access.
How do you have
So do we
access
have
to the
access?
self?
Do
What?
we have access to that?
That's just assuming the thing in question. How is it that just because you temporally started with yourself in your argument, that it therefore is ontologically primary? If you can solve this, you've basically proven the cogito. How? How are you making that jump?
The
This is
jump
the point I'm trying to.
the
Sorry,
jump
go
from the
ahead.
self being the only known thing to the self being the ontologically primary thing.
You temporally or epistemically started with the self. I think, therefore I am, right? And you're
You
just repeating it, right, in the conclusion. I'm
you
saying, how
granted
is it that,
yourself. Oh, sorry.
yes, you're basically granting yourself the thing in question and saying it's ontologically primary, and I'm saying that doesn't actually follow.
Yeah,
That is
so
viciously circular.
I epistemically start with a set of axioms, which are by definition unjustifiable.
Okay, great. We
That's why we
epistemically
reject
start
those.
with God.
So do you.
Yeah, no, we're not classical foundationalists. That's the issue, and we've explained this to you. Classical foundationalism, if you don't have to justify your starting position, then neither do we. God exists because I said so.
Yeah, we're just using your own standard and saying God. First, we start with God. By definition, right? Our axiom is unjustified. It's God, but it's our starting point, and it makes sense of everything else. So, using your own standard by making God an axiom, like, why would you have any problem with that?
I don't.
Okay,
All right, can you
then you have
show
no
us
legs
how
to stand on. You have
axioms themselves?
no ground to stand on and say we're wrong,
Yeah.
given your own standard. But that's not our argument. Our argument is not that God is an
Honestly,
axiom.
And
you have
that's the thing. You're saying that I have to accept an argument that's not your argument. What
you
difference
have
does that
no
make?
hold
That's
on.
not
You
your
have
argument.
no you hold on. You have no basis not only to critique the axiom of God, but you have no basis to critique any other foundational axiom. You essentially, from this view, have no access to objective truth because everything becomes subjective axioms. This doesn't give you anything objective. Congratulations, you've annihilated the possibility of truth by holding to classical foundationalism.
Okay, and then what?
That's absurd. You've literally rejected the possibility
Can't
of
debate.
truth. You can't make arguments. Congratulations.
If
Okay,
you were
and then what?
consistent, you couldn't make arguments. That's the point.
Yeah,
The fact that you do make
you're
arguments
yeah.
shows that you're inconsistent with your worldview. That's the whole idea.
Saying and then what is basically mouth sounds, just farts out of your mouth because there's no objective meaning behind them.
So, because
So
we've shown how absurd this is, why don't we start with a different worldview and maybe a different paradigm? right? This is what I was talking about with the possibility of the contrary. We find an absurdity, a reductio, such as what we're saying,
But I
then
don't
we reject it.
here.
I know you reject it, but on what basis? Why?
I have quite a few
Because you're asserting that
on my channel, Daniel.
logic disproves itself.
I have a debates playlist.
You're
We're giving
asserting
you
that you have
reduction.
logic in the first place.
Yeah, you can't
Like,
even have access to logic. If your
Yeah.
This is just
foundation
open
sense
forum.
data,
Eric
then
was in
using
my
logic
chat and he was
doesn't
asking
mean
questions, so I had him come
Like,
to the
you
it's
don't have
Discord.
literally
access to
just
logic.
fart sounds coming out of your mouth. That's
What
it.
sense are you using to
Why
access
does
logic?
the entire rest of the world that isn't Orthodox
Yeah.
Christians still do stuff
Because they're
like
inconsistent.
and
Dude, that's
make
what I just
sorry,
explained it. I
It's a
just
red
explained
herring.
it. Is that
the
you're
fart sound?
inconsistent with your starting point. If it were true, all these things that you say, you wouldn't be able to make sentences. It's not true, therefore you're inconsistent with your beliefs.
Instead of arguing back, you should realize that everything you're saying is absurd. Like, you literally cannot make arguments anymore at this point if you're holding to this position. There are no arguments you can make because your worldview has been reduced to absurdity.
And
Literally
that's the thing,
nothing you can
because
say.
you are making arguments, obviously your worldview is inconsistent, so change it. Because you want to make arguments, right?
It's full circle back to the debate, my preferences.
So here's a question for all of you.
Yeah.
Before you ask that question, just what sense are you using to access logic? I just want to know that before you go on your question.
The hammer.
His smell.
The sense data.
I smell
Yeah.
logic.
I
It smells pretty
smell-
good. Logic smells pretty good, not gonna lie.
Yeah. It smells like
And
a
possibility
smoking
of the
brain right
contrary.
now.
Aren't you just granting yourself the correct paradigm by definition?
No.
Like how
No.
could you possibly be shown to be wrong if any statement
It was
coming from
already
your
explained.
worldview
No,
is
it was
by
already
definition
explained to
incorrect?
you. It was already explained to you at the very beginning of the conversation. And if you were having any bit of like shred of decency, you would have already understood that. Where it is a reductio ad absurdum for the impossibility of the contrary. So our worldview is we have to begin one to justify it with paradigm comparisons. So, if your worldview, starting with classical foundationalism, reduces to not only subjectivism but complete absurdity where you can't even make any kind of logical sentence because every sound out of your mouth and everyone else's mouth around you would be reduced to fart noises, you have an absurd worldview. You can't access logic. Now, the logical thing to do, if you want to hold to logic, is to abandon this nonsense and go for one that is a consistent paradigm, which is Orthodox Christianity, because it's a whole paradigm. It's not just picking and choosing things.
Why is it the case that subjective things are not meaningful?
Because there's no objective meaning behind them.
Is there objective meaning behind the rules of soccer?
No, there's no objective. And in your worldview, no, there's nothing objective. There's no
But
objective
people
meaning
still
behind the
play
world
soccer and
existing.
follow the rules, correct?
What rules?
The ones of soccer.
What does soccer mean?
I think we can grant for the purpose of this that we all know
No,
what.
I'm not going to grant you anything because you've shown me that you can't ground anything. Why should I grant you something?
Okay, soccer is a game involving kicking a ball into a net to score points.
And how do you
Is that
know that?
objectively true?
I don't know, it's just fart noises.
Okay, that's
No,
like
you're
Yeah,
starting to get it. Finally.
Well, I mean,
But what are the
if you put
necessary
it like that.
conditions, right? What are the necessary conditions that have to be the case before defining soccer rules? Like, don't you think that the world has to be set up a certain way before we can even meaningfully make conventions? Like, aren't there rules to how we describe things before we go into descriptions? So to conflate like logic like a soccer game that's also a category error. It's a different type of one, but a transcendental category like logic is not a soccer game, dude. This is something that's universal, as opposed to some convention made by man.
Even giving you particulars, you can't ground what particulars are. You're just only pointing to more particulars.
Well,
So
even
your
in the
world.
game of soccer, the rules are objective in the games of soccer. Like you can't
Oh wait,
just like
are we
subjectively
are
interpret.
we using the rules from when the game was first invented, or are we using the modern day rules? And how do we know which rules are more correct?
Yeah, what is the standard there?
The
Or is
standard
it
is whatever
football?
is agreed to by the players.
Oh, so it's a fallacy, dude.
Okay, so it's subject. So if every player agreed that the rules of soccer tomorrow are the rules of basketball, does that make it true?
And
It
does it
would.
make it
Ultimate.
basketball?
Player agreed
Does
to
it
it.
make it
Yeah.
basketball?
Wait, okay, so
Guilty
if they
majority.
agree, hold on, let's test it. If they agree to it, then yeah. All right, tomorrow, if every single society on Earth agreed that cannibalism is the more morally correct thing to do, is it now true?
According to this guy.
No.
It's the
No,
fallacy.
You just
The
said that, so you
consensus.
just
they agreed to it.
You're
Good
contradicting
night,
yourself
Graham.
right now.
Love
Why?
you.
Listen, dude,
Graham,
we've
Graham,
already
Graham.
reductioed your stupid worldview. You have no ground to stand on to say that we're wrong because you're not even assuming our position. So why, like, I don't understand. Why are you like so irrationally tied to this weird foundationalism that can't justify anything?
I just don't see why. Well,
That's personal. No, you don't see it as personal incredulity. That's already beginning with the fallacy.
yeah. Here's the thing. I don't see why the epistemic justification of someone making a truth claim to you really affects your ability to engage with those truth claims.
There are no truth claims. You can't ground truth. There is no objective truth. You to
Yes,
say
but,
the term truth
but
claim
you,
means
but
nothing.
you can. So, like, if you
Yes.
found a piece of paper on the ground and it had something written on it, you have no idea what, if any, justification the writer of that writing
You
might
don't.
have.
You can't even tell me what paper is from your worldview because it's all subjective.
You can.
Yeah.
So
How do you
take a
access
piece of
truth?
paper,
If
it
you're,
has words on it. Can you engage with that truth claim?
if your access to the reality is just based on sense data, what is truth if it's just sense data? Do you have access to truth? Like, where in sense data do you find truth? Like, what sense are you using?
See, that's the thing. It doesn't matter where I find truth. It only matters
Yes, it
where
does.
you
This
find
is,
it.
no. This is an internal
What?
critique of your position. We have a justification for truth.
If anyone else here wants
then
to
we
have a
ask
go,
You have a
link
justification
in
for
the
truth.
in the
Do
live
yourself a
chat.
favor, Eric. Eric, do yourself a favor. After this is finished, I want you to go back and watch this entire portion of you interacting with us and take notes. Because you have held to such an absurd worldview that you made even the very notion of truth impossible in it. Basically, what you're saying is, oh, and soccer. There you go.
Nicely done. But does that mean that he's recording this? Because if that's the case, can I have a copy? This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's on my YouTube.
Yeah,
and
go
we're
go
down to-
subscribe. Post your YouTube in the chat, Wi-Fi, and everyone subscribe.
So you didn't really answer the question I was trying to ask, though.
Preach.
I mean, we've been answering your questions ever since you got here, and you keep
Literally,
shifting the goalposts.
we have
and
not
giving
not
irrational
answered any
fart noises for reasons, and then saying we can't ground anything.
So if you are trying to evaluate a truth claim, what difference does it make whether the source of that claim has any justification or not?
You can't evaluate from your worldview. You can't evaluate truth claims. From ours, we can.
Yes, we're talking about the necessary conditions of what makes truth claims possible, and we're giving a
This
reason.
is what gets atheists, I think, a lot in these discussions is that they go, yeah, but I am making truth claims, but I am making an argument. Like, yes, we know you're doing that, but if we follow your worldview all the way to its extremities, you can't actually do that consistently. So yes, we understand that you are making truth claims, you're making arguments, but it's not consistent with the atheist worldview. That's what we're saying. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it's not relevant.
It's
to what
entire.
I'm
It's
saying.
the whole
It's literally
point.
irrelevant.
It's the whole point. What
Because
do
you,
you mean it's
cause you
not
keep
relevant?
saying, because you keep saying, yeah, but this is a truth claim. It's like, yeah, we agree that you're making truth claims, but we're saying that your worldview doesn't allow for it. So you're being inconsistent with the worldview.
Ooh, Daedalus, I
That's
like
You're
that.
literally this
basically
whole debate.
admitting to being.
We're also
Yeah,
asking a second order
you're
meta
admitting to
level
being
question.
inconsistent.
So, like, can a pocket calculator make truth claims?
No.
No.
But you can engage with the data outputs of a pocket calculator.
Right, who made the
is not-
calculator?
Yeah.
Calculators, it can be programmed to do whatever we want it to do.
Yeah, so you put 2 + 2, hit the equals, and it comes out 4. Can you evaluate that in terms of true and false?
We
Yeah,
can.
we're
Who is
asking
the
about how you
evaluator?
have. We're asking how you have access to even transcendental categories like mathematics. You're granting yourself so many things, and your worldview has already been shown to be absurd by your own admission. But you're still going. It's like you're trying to put a band-aid on a corpse at this point.
Let's go with this. 2 + 2 = 4, right?
Yep.
Did you use your senses to do that?
Yep.
What senses?
The brain senses, the ones in my mind.
Your mind, is your mind physical or is it not physical?
I believe it to be physical.
So your mind is your brain or it's a different thing?
It's an emergent property of my brain.
Hey,
And there it is.
emergent
There it is.
property.
Oh no.
Is that on everyone's
Logic
bingo
is an
card?
emergent property of God.
Emergent property.
That's funny. That's actually hilarious. Emergent properties are one of the funniest things I can think of. Literally, farts are emergent properties. What the heck, man?
These mouth sounds are emergent properties of my mouth.
Incredible mystery. What is an emergent property? What do you mean by that?
data. It's data.
It's just something that exists in terms of like a combination of
Oh, it
other.
exists? Hold on. What is existence?
Well, I guess that depends on.
He was about to cook
You
himself.
mean. So there, I
Is
would
existence
classify
an
that there are
emergent property?
Yon, don't let him cook himself, bro. Just let him.
He's
You
already
are an
hung himself
emergent
so
property of
much.
your dad's balls.
Look,
That's
incredible
true. That's
mystery.
also true.
What is
No,
an
the
emergent
term that
property?
grew
Just
into
define it
me.
for us.
Look,
Go ahead.
I'll let somebody else talk. I've had my fun.
So, like, say you have.
This is so funny.
Okay. Can I talk for a second?
Yes, go ahead. What is a emergent property? Can you define
Okay.
that
So,
for us?
like, say you have a bottle of Coca-Cola. You have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, all those atoms. The Coca-Cola-ness, quote unquote, is an emergent property of those things in their arrangement.
Okay, that's cool.
So the brain, the structure of the brain makes the mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the mind is just reduced to the brain in a certain construction, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the mind is the brain then.
Yeah. Well, the mind is part
So
of
then
the.
why do all of the extra bullshit of going through
Hey
the
Brenda,
emergent
maybe we can
properties?
get
Just say the mind, the
Sarah in
brain,
on it.
and
I know
actually
I've
bite
seen
the
you over
bullet
there a
on
few
it. Why
times.
even
The
go through
mind
all
and
that
the
extra
brain are not
bullshit?
identical. The mind is a subset of the brain. The
You
mind
have
is
her.
within the
Do
brain.
you have contact with her?
Okay, is
You
the
could
mind
DM her and we
so the
can
mind is in fact material, correct?
see if she's
Yes.
interested.
Okay.
Where
And
in the
if the
brain
mind
is
is
the mind
material, my bad. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, where in the brain is the mind located?
In the arrangement of your neurons and the
Is
connections
it
they
in
have.
the prefrontal cortex? Is it in the medulla oblongata? Is it in the pineal gland? Where in the brain is it located?
It's spread out around through it.
And how do you know
Where
that?
is it limited to?
Basically, what he's saying is that because the brain is arranged in a certain manner, therefore it creates a mind, which is an emergent property. But that it doesn't matter. Basically, you can reduce it down to a subsection of the brain, as to what you're saying, right?
Mr. E, incredible Mr. E.
Yeah.
John, can you
Okay.
explain to him the heart thing when people have heart transplants and they change their
No,
behavior?
it doesn't. It doesn't even matter at this point.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah,
mind is
that
in the
doesn't
brain,
matter.
if the
It's
mind is in the
perfectly
brain,
physical.
and everything itself is physical, then you can't have. Then everything in language becomes a particular. Everything in
Exactly.
reality is just a particular. Your brain is just a particular. You
Law
have
of
no access to
non-contradiction in
things
the
outside
brain.
of your own head. Guess what? That's called solipsism. Guess what that does?
Yeah,
Make truth impossible.
yeah. Here, I think you're too high IQ in the way that you're trying to explain it to him. Let me dumb it down for him significantly, because I'm the resident retard here. Incredible Mr. E. So okay, so if you say that 2 plus 2 equals 4 because you can process this thing through your mind, which is essentially just your brain processing it, then can 2 plus 2 equal 5 for someone else and it be just as truthful because they have a different brain and therefore a different mind than you?
Well, clearly I wouldn't think so, but what do I know?
Okay, so it all just boils down to subjectivism again, right? So 2 plus 2 can equal 5 for someone else, right? It's not an objective standard.
Not if logic is true.
Is logic located in the brain?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, he cooks himself at this point.
I just
I
want to. I
I
want to
didn't even
hear
have
him
to
say
hop in
it. I want
critique.
to hear
Hey,
him say
let him
logic
answer. I
is
want.
in the brain. Is
It's funny.
logic in the brain?
No.
No, where is it?
Wow.
It's all over the place.
Where? Point to it.
Okay, it's right over there.
No.
Is logic physical?
No.
No.
There we go.
So okay, is logic mind dependent?
Our interaction with it is. I'm not certain that it is itself.
Do you need the mind to access logic?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do. Okay, and the mind is physical.
Yes.
All right. So if you're using your mind to access logic, which is not physical, where in the mind is logic located when you're accessing it?
I don't know. I'm not a philosopher.
I can tell. Okay,
That
let's
obvious,
get
was it?
what?
I said it was that obvious, was it?
I mean, when
Yeah.
you said emergent property and cognito ergo sum, I already knew that we were dealing with a hyper intellectual. And I'm bullying you because I want you to rewatch the entire conversation because everything you said has been refuted. It's absurd. And your whole worldview reduces to solipsism. Logic for you, if it's not physical and you're accessing it with a physical mind, and you said, for example, one mind can't be wouldn't be more true than another, right? Unless a mind is more true than another mind. Do you think that's the case?
Yes.
One mind is more true than the other mind. How do you deliberate between two minds? Which one is actually correct?
Oh, I'm just always on my side.
Okay, so you're a solipsist.
How do you determine which mind is more correct?
I don't hold to the same presuppositions as you do.
You got to realize, bro, this was an internal critique the whole time. Like, to throw it back at us, it's not going to be anywhere near what you're thinking.
But his
This is
epistemic
like
foundation is so
physicist level
humble, it
shit.
must be correct.
Yeah, well, it's like Weird Al said, I know I'm a million times as humble as thou art.
That's the argument
I'm
Godless
glad
Engineer gave me the other night.
your main philosopher is Weird Al, and I can tell from all of your arguments that you've made.
That was
My
Taffy, I think.
Bologna.
Anyway, I feel like we're kicking a dead horse at this point. He's already refuted himself. He's admitted to being incorrect. He's admitted that his worldview is subjective and arbitrary. So, at what point do we do we say I'm sorry for kicking the corpse? You know, like,
Well, hey, I just work here. I don't have mod permissions, you know.
This is gonna make
no, I'm gonna leave. You can stay.
And you'll never have them with that attitude.
Yeah, you
Nah,
have to be
I
power
think I'm
hungry.
gonna subjectively kick myself, guys.
What?
I said I think I'm gonna subjectively kick myself.
I do appreciate you coming in though and having a conversation.
It's getting pretty late. It's getting pretty
Hey,
late.
hey,
over
watch
there.
this video in
Yeah,
the side chat,
hold
bro.
on.
It just summarizes
Hold
literally
on, guys.
everything they just said.
He's
It's
actually
it's
been pretty
called The
good.
Transcendental Argument for God.
He's been pretty good.
It's
Fans,
by
like,
Church
you
of
know.
Eternal Logos.
Yeah, David Patrick Harry. Also, this was entertaining, so thank you for that.
He also
Gio,
is like a
Gio,
Giga Chad, so like you might like
Gio,
him more because of that.
Gio,
Yeah,
Gio,
I don't accept the transcendental argument.
Gio, I have an alternative tag for you.
Just
It's
'cause-
it's the transsexual affinity of Gio.
Bro, what? All right, yeah. I don't know, man. If you don't believe in tag, then you might have to go in the Jay Dyer server or something, bro.
Hey, says you, my bro. Says you.
I think we should dive into Bryce J's 20-point syllogism.
Hang on, I swear I'm gonna leave for just one more thing.
We don't want you to leave. We want you to become Eastern Orthodox, bro.
Yeah, hang around.
This guy.
It's
I'm
been
not
fun.
gonna become Eastern Orthodox. I like sin too much.
I forbid you from
Hey,
leaving.
at least he's
So
honest.
he's low key. He
Hey,
low key proves all these other
honest.
people right whenever they say that
That's
people
good.
leave Christianity because they're like just gooners, and that's
Yeah,
basically
He
what this
left.
guy.
That's the
He
most
left Christianity because of what
It's
stuff.
horses with me.
that's the most consistent answer I like.
Betting on horses. Holy
Or-
shit! Not
100%, because the mental gymnastics people make to not understand what is like objectively the case and has been argued to be the case has to stem from an emotional
Lazy, it's my fifis,
appeal
bro.
to,
That's all that matters. That's what makes it
gooning
right.
and just being a degen. Like that has to be the reason, right?
okay, but hang on. I've never seen anyone go whole hog with you guys and be like, okay,
Wait, is
fuck
that a
it.
gooning
Fuck
thing?
it, knowledge is
Is that a-
impossible. There's no
That's
such
not
thing.
a
as
gay.
ignorance.
Is that a gooning thing?
That's not a pretty.
Hold on, let him keep going. Go, bro. Keep going.
Guys, I don't think I want to go whole hog with him.
No. That was just like a because you take people through the little reductio, right? What happens if someone just accepts that? Is like, okay, yeah, fine. Truth doesn't exist. Knowledge is impossible. Where do
Right,
you go
then
from
it's
there?
over. There's no point in debating someone. If truth doesn't exist, then why are you even debating?
In that statement
That's just
itself.
self-repeating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do you know that
Yeah,
statement itself?
If they buy that bullet, then exactly, they're just making fart sounds, and then they shouldn't be taken seriously. They shouldn't take themselves seriously. You
It
know,
actually
like,
would
that's
help if
basically
they
the debate
opened.
at that point.
If they opened with that,
You could
then it would
rephrase
Did
that
Jim Bob
in
come up
a
with that term,
hedgy
pig
enough
snake? 'Cause
way
it's so good. It's so good.
that you could sneak it in
That's
under.
pretty
the
much
not
what you've done,
transcript
dude.
way.
Wait, you've pretty much done that. Like that's just you. If you just started with that, we wouldn't have had this whole conversation. This whole conversation was because you didn't open with that directly, so we had to go through it logically.
Well, yeah, but
Do you
the
know what I mean?
purpose of the conversation was just to spend time. So skipping
Well, no,
all
the
of it.
purpose of the conversation was to
Fine.
destroy your worldview until you to become orthodox. That was the point of the discussion.
But my worldview was already destroyed.
Yeah, I know, but we need to show you
Yeah.
numerous times, obviously. Sometimes it takes more than one time to get it through to people.
Yeah, but since my worldview doesn't allow for logic, then your logical proof has no effect on me.
Yeah, okay. Well, then you can
brother.
go be living illogically then. I don't know what to tell you, but
Yeah, just go live like an animal. What I'm
Why
saying.
are you trying to use logic to explain that?
Nah, see, I just use logic by coincidence. It just so happens that every time I've tried to do it, it sort of happened.
Dude,
yeah,
you
but
don't have
it
access
happened
to it.
incorrectly. You
You don't
you're
have
doing it
access
wrong.
to logic.
You're doing logic wrong, bro. Just letting you know.
Yeah. Oh, have you guys ever heard of like the 1664 thing?
1664 thing.
You mean 1611?
1611. We have heard it. We have heard of the KJV, Daddy.
I've definitely heard of that, Daddy.
We read the
So you're
KJV
reading
here.
logic coincidentally, that's like a true belief, but not a justified true belief. Yeah.
So like to
Basically.
reduce the fraction 16 over 64, right? You know what you do? you just take out all the matching numbers. So the sixes, you just pull those out.
Are you Jewish?
Is
No.
this gematria now? Are we doing gematria?
No.
Okay.
But then you get 1/4, which is the correct answer.
Well, I don't understand what the whole point of this.
My
line
guy,
of
are you just
reasoning.
saying to look at the factors of a certain number? What is the point of this?
No. I'm.
I'll buy it. I understand what he's saying. That through accidental, coincidence, you can have a true belief, but that's the difference between a true belief and a
There he
justified
is.
true belief.
He gets it. You can use an incorrect method and still arrive at a true statement.
Have you heard of Gettier cases?
No, what's that?
That's basically
Gettier
what you just tried to do, which attacks a fallibilist point of view. But as Father Deacon Ananias pointed out, we don't even have to talk about all of those things. There's a first order and second order knowledge. First order knowledge is
I wasn't trying to attack anything. It's just a fun bit of trivia that by coincidence that incorrect reduction works with numbers.
well, what you're saying, yeah, and what you did was basically a Gettier case, is what I'm pointing out. So I would read up on Gettier cases, but it's basically the entire discussion was focused around justifying your second order knowledge claims. So the second order is that knowledge exists. Your first order is like I know X. So all this time, like you were saying, we can all know these things. All these other people who aren't Orthodox know these things, and everybody has been saying the entire time, yes, that's true, but they can't justify it.
Right.
Yeah, like even if in that example that you listed, where you're right by accident, you would never know, and you would never be able to determine whether or not you were right by accident.
Well, yeah, like that's the inductive problem, right?
No.
Well, no,
I don't think you're
it
getting it.
it
Like,
isn't. But
if you
the
say
inductive
so,
problem is along similar lines.
so there's no doubt that you're making truth claims or you're making claims in Mr. E, but we're asking what are the necessary conditions that make that even possible, right? So how does S is P, like what are the necessary conditions that make that even possible? We're going to a second order or meta level kind of question. We're not talking about like you got to get out of the first order. I'm making a truth claim. Why can't I make a truth?
Okay, but like, why do I got to get out of the first order if like I can still put bricks together.
Right.
So the nature of the question, the content of the question is about the necessary or prior conditions that make that even possible.
So like when
so
you're
we're not just saying we're not saying you can't make a knowledge. Like yeah, we do say you can't make words, you're just making noises, but what we're really saying is that you can't justify your statements. You can't string together your propositions in a coherent manner or make an argument in justifying why you're doing these things. So that's why we're saying you can't do this, you can't do that. It's because you can't justify these things. Yeah, you can know 2 + 2 is 4 as an atheist or whatever you are, but we're asking a more zoomed out kind of meta level question. Does that make sense?
It's about the consistency of knowledge, of actually being able to know things truly. You can use utilitarianism or like accidentalism and see that things work out and they seem to be the case, but you never actually know. So if you're fine with that, then fine, but don't be making truth claims and expect others to take you seriously unless you can justify them.
Well, yeah, but like a dog has no epistemic justification, and it like gets along and does dog stuff.
When a dog is dogged, how does it know how to dog?
Does the dog hold beliefs?
Are dogs real? Or are we just making them up?
Does
Where's
a
the
dog
fur-
run?
where's the furry?
Does
my
a dog
dog-
run? Does a dog run presuppositional apologetics?
No, see, I think dogs just sort of take things as they come. I use them because they're They don't strike me as
The
a very
Oreo.
fleshy
That's
animal.
gross.
See, I reckon you can even
You use
train
them. What
a
do you mean
dog
by?
to do
I'm
that,
sorry, Mr.
but
E.
that's
What do you
still
mean by
being
you
trained, you
use
know?
them?
That's
What's
still
that?
input output. Like, I was going to say, I reckon you can train a dog to run presuppositional apologetics, like, you know, with like a chart, you know, like or something, and it'll point to the right spot at the right time. But even then, that's just training like a computer. Like, is it really reflecting on it?
If you trained a
Probably
dog to
not.
do that, does he get into Orthodox heaven?
I think you could train a dog to run
I
a
hope
beer
so.
store.
'Cause I love my doggo.
Well, if you didn't like your dog, would he go to hell?
Which just seems like a red herring. You're not even answering our question, or you're not even repeating back to me. Like I tried to explain the whole second order thing to you, and you're just going on some weird red herring about dogs. Obviously, dogs don't do philosophy.
Yeah, dogs don't have second order justifications, and they don't seem to need them, and people don't seem to need them after. Apparently, we only got them after the Orthodox Church showed up and told everybody. But like before that, we still
so
had
we
how.
don't need truth. That's interesting. So you're just like a beast then. You're admitting to be an irrational beast. Fascinating.
Great worldview, dude. Great worldview.
And you just keep demonstrating that you actually don't understand the contention.
Honestly, I think a dog could probably argue his worldview better than he can at this point. I'm just being honest.
We won, boys.
How do you know I'm not a dog?
Yeah, probably because you're using human language, and I can make that assertion because I have a foundation unlike you. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, you're doing energies
know.
proper to human nature. You're not doing dog things. So we can extrapolate that we have a common unity between you and me and everyone in this room, because we're engaging in, you know, things proper to human nature, like human
I'm gonna
speech.
say I love the good
philosophy.
faith answer to a bullshit question, but yeah, what he said exactly. We know you're not a dog.
But you don't know you're not a dog.
Oh no, I can only be pretty sure I'm not a dog. You're right. Limiting myself to first order.
Do you see the contradiction there before I point it out?
Do you enjoy walking on 4 legs?
No, but
No,
seriously, do
I-
you see?
I don't have 4 legs. I got 2 arms.
Can you tell me, do you think you know the question I'm about to ask, or what I'm about to point out? When you said I can only say I'm pretty sure I'm not a dog? You know what the follow-up question?
That was a statement of fact and not belief.
Right, exactly. So you are getting it. It's just and you know, I know in real time in a room full of people, it can be hard to admit it, but I think you really should go back and listen to this.
I've understood the argument the whole time.
I don't know about that. Let's see what Herbert has to say about that. No, I'm just kidding.
So you're just engaging in bad faith then?
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you for admitting it.
To be fair, with these bullshit questions like how do you know I'm not a dog and all that, it just seems like you want attention. You want like us to pat you on the head and say, good boy, good boy.
No, I
There
don't
is
feel very-
someone. There is
This
someone.
seems like
who
a
sometimes
humiliation
comes
ritual.
Must be a furry.
There are furries.
There are, but
Well, because he's made in the image of
Yeah.
God, right? Our friend here is still made in the image of God. We should preserve.
No, I think he's made in the image of
rest the
dog.
honor. Oh.
What's God bad for? It's actually.
Well, did you all hear about the dyslexic agnostic insomniac?
I already told that joke.
Well, I missed it.
I'm saying we should preserve what
Indeed
little
you did.
dignity is left
Test,
in
test.
the humiliation ritual.
Wait, guys, it's got a point.
Yes.
How do you know the elites haven't already put Neuralinks in all of our brains, and we were actually lizards?
No humiliation. Did I just interrupt myself?
Oh yeah, that's right. It's Bill Hicks.
Wi-Fi gospel was Alex Jones all along. Okay, interesting.
Actually, Bill Hicks was Alex Jones.
Oh
see
yeah,
it
that's
in
true.
his picture.
And maybe Bill Hicks with Wi-Fi Gospel. Have you ever seen him in the same room?
Ah,
Yeah, I know.
You want to work like a tough guy, huh?
All right. Well, I've got to go to bed. This has been admittedly
Funny.
pretty pointless.
No, it's been funny.
Well, it's
Well,
pointless
before
if
you
you don't
leave, if
have
you go to
a ethical
Infowars.com,
commitment. Oh shit!
there's a
That was
$10,000
Joseph speaking.
payment plan. You can learn all about how the lizards have basically, destroyed everything and made the frogs gay.
Just preach it, brother.
Jub didn't want to interrupt.
How do we know we're
the
not gay
infomercial.
frogs dreaming of being
I'm
human?
just my point was that maybe you should reassess your ethical commitments to like conforming to truth. If you feel this whole was pointless, I'm sorry to hear that, but
Oh,
like if you
Greg.
really are concerned about conforming to a superior
jokes.
worldview and arriving to truth consistently, then maybe you should, take better arguments and, adapt to that position, even if you're just curious, right? To see where it goes.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I just don't hold that a circular justification is superior to simply asserting axiom as brute fact and starting from there. Like this justifies that, which justifies it. Things that
circular
justify
as well.
themselves are just brute facts.
Yeah, but
You
we
gotta
didn't
play
just
the
make
fuck out,
assertions.
mate.
We made arguments,
Like
and you
Do,
didn't make any argument.
do you ever think that you're conflating the word circle with self-refuting?
Do you call them brute facts because you're literally a brute, like beast-like?
Well, he said he was
Ooh.
hogging. He was hogging something earlier.
No. I call them that because that was the term for them that I saw somewhere. I think who was the mathematician
All right,
guy
this
who
is
said it?
Elon Musk.
Bertrand Russell, I think, coined the term or
Yeah,
used it.
Yeah,
foundational.
you know that brute facts are just another word for unjustified axioms.
Well, yeah, like I said, an axiom by definition is unjustified. That's what
Yeah.
makes an axiom.
Yeah, we reject
You
that.
should read
starting
more
at-
of Bertrand Russell and see where he wishes you to be. Like he's an interesting fella. Definitely research him some more.
Interesting fella. You
Have you guys
mispronounced
ever heard of
dickhead.
simulation theory?
Yeah, it's retarded.
So brain in a vat.
I don't know, man. I can send rockets to the moon, but how do we know that?
If you define your skull as a vat, then you're a brain in one of those.
That was a joke.
Get your head out of your ass, Elon. You're a brain in a vat, boy.
Hey, I think my brain vat is next to your brain vat.
Aw.
That's fucking stupid.
Sorry, one of my
By
baby
next.
mom just called me. I missed all that.
Nah, they're not next to each other. They're just wired together.
Well, it depends on what you mean by next to each other.
I think
Well,
that
are
was
we
the
talking about-
drunk
are we
Jordan
talking
Peterson
about our
on St.
perspective
Patrick's
or
Day.
like the people maintaining the vats? Because like transcendentally, I have no idea whether we're next to each other or not.
What do you mean by transcendentally? I feel like you don't.
I don't know what I mean by that. I'm just a dog.
Start barking now. Lega.
That's the first. That's the first truth he's told all night.
Nah, see, I'm one of those weird dogs that barks in English.
Bucko, mean, but
Gio, bro, this is why you don't wear cat ears, bro. What this leads to.
what do you mean
Why,
by
bro?
mean, Bucko?
Because this is what this leads to. You're gonna be barking like a dog.
No,
I'm gonna
when you say
it
you're a
seems that you're
dog,
taking the defeats humbly. You realise that you got blown the fuck out. Hopefully you reflect on it. Because like this memeing and trolling now, bit of fun, but it's a bit cringe as well. Just reflect on it, mate. You'll be all right. Like at least, and I don't think you were being bad faith. I think you were being retarded. Like, and I think you'll figure it out. So God bless you, mate.
Well, I'll pray on it.
Inshallah.
I'm not gonna pray to Allah.
What? What do you mean? Why not?
Because I don't
Allah
believe
just
in
means
Allah.
God. Allah just means God in Arabic.
I don't speak Arabic.
Alhamdulillah.
If I pray to Allah, I wouldn't even know what I was praying if I was praying in Arabic.
Was this the guy that was debating tonight, or?
No.
No, I'm just some rando.
Okay. Why don't you just stay here, and then they'll just run like tag trains on you, and then you'll like become Orthodox in like the matter of like a week or something.
Oh,
It's usually what
dude,
happens.
Geo,
dude,
Geo, that's a lot
great.
of talk. Hey, Geo, that's a lot of talk for someone that won't even talk about their worldview because you know that will dismantle it.
I'm sorry, I
Oh.
don't sit here and fill, bro, for 30 hours a day, bro.
Geo?
What I did.
No,
No.
you just sophistically argue about just a bunch of normative nonsense.
Normative nonsense.
Yo, you're weak.
I'm not gonna become Orthodox because I'm content with seemings.
What the fuck is what?
Semen.
Loss?
Seemings.
Loss is
Did
still?
you just say you like semen?
Yeah, he's content. He's content.
Okay,
He's content with
bro.
his semen.
John, it
No, I'm
seemings
not
it's
content with that at all. I've got to get rid of all of that as much and as fast as possible, all the time.
Hey, listen, dude, if you start like just like lifting weights, you'll probably become like religious or something.
No.
Wait, but if I become religious, will I start lifting weights? Has that worked for you
No.
guys?
No.
Yeah.
No. Don't listen to Gio, he's gay.
Mixed bag.
Gio likes
All I'm just saying is you gotta blend in when these guys start coming for you. You're
No,
gonna throw an incel revolution.
No spoiling Bible.
Dude, it's great. Yo, dude, it's like Monty Python, Gio. Like you're really, really good at it, dude.
I mean, like if you're trying to
Did
move
someone
closer
tell you
God's
to ask me that?
perfection,
I'm
it seems
curious.
like getting ripped would like get you closer to that.
No, he doesn't. Just ignore whatever he says.
Well, I mean, he's the one who's lurking in here, so he's clearly getting something out of it. Whatever
I'm
it is.
just here to be with the community.
Be, bro. That's right.
A lot of people want me here.
But I did eat breakfast this morning.
Crucible drone
So-
spotted.
What I find interesting is that even the slow boys that are a little bit too retarded
let's
to get
test out
the
Tate. Andrew Tate
presuppositional
voice.
argumentation and tag and all that, they like to hang with the ortho bros because we're more based as a rule. Like they need to hang
What do you
with
guys, Andrew
degens
Tate us off?
otherwise,
Enough?
and they're just. I reckon just through like rhetoric and mocking them,
Listen, it's the
we'll get
top
them
G.
on board. You know, that's my hope.
If Geo didn't have
it's not
Discord
that good,
servers
is
to
it?
hang out in, he'd probably stick his dick in a blender.
What? Don't even
Top
repeat
G
that
would
again.
never stick his dick in a
Fucking weirdo.
blender.
You would.
Hey,
Yeah, it's
schoolboy,
not
my
good.
headset broke up. What did you say?
I said Geo would stick his dick in a blender if he didn't have Discord servers to hang in and just be a troll.
Thanks. I just wanted to hear you say it a second time.
I'm glad I culminated enough love by the server. I appreciate that.
I bet you're relishing in it. That's the funniest part.
We love retards until they convert. It's fun.
Geo, I still remember our first conversation in Limitless when you first came in there, and you haven't
About
brought up
objectivity.
Platonism since.
Well, yeah, that was just something I picked.
But you are weak though and immature. You need to actually defend your worldview.
Okay,
In good faith.
do you love Jews?
Yeah.
How do
I
we
love
feel
you.
about conceptual objects?
I love all people. I try to anyway. I don't think I actually do. Kind of hard to do that when you're not.
I think
God.
he's talking about the Discord.
But in principle, yes.
I mean,
Rando
okay,
and Demando's
do
funny.
you not remember T Dump? Does anyone?
He's funny. He's entertaining.
He
Yeah, morality
is
is
frustrating with how
field.
confident he is and how retarded he is.
Oh,
Like,
all right. This is
literally
Obama.
the embodiment of Dunning-Kruger. I don't know. I can't stand the cunt, but I guess he's funny.
Oh, this is
Like,
Obama.
there's memes that come out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't even care. He admitted to this. He just
He
does
isn't
it.
funny. Yeah, dude. I mean, gravity
Right.
imposes on my will, so.
He isn't funny. He's basically the Matt Slick of atheists. He's dumb. He's really dumb.
Who you talking about?
Morality is made out of field stuff. The moral field.
Oh yeah, he tried to run that whole thing on Dr. Malpass and then he got destroyed. It was really bad.
Do you remember
Really,
when?
really bad.
Do you remember when he just started repeating "Do you
Or
love
this is
Jews" over
Obama?
and over, and then he just rage quit?
What?
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 Why would you say that?
My wife, Michelle.
Wait, is he a graper? What the hell?
And then
That's
he
out of the
started
group.
just
Nah, it's
repeating
not
"Do
good. It's
you
not
love
good.
Jews?" After a while, he just got kind of pissed off and left.
Who said that? Wait, when did he say this?
That was
You know?
T-Dump.
When did he say
In what
this?
context?
T-Jump paid $200 a month for this alpha male strategies like dating thing. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
That's really fucking sad.
That's gay, bro. That's gay as hell.
That's something that Gee, I'm not gonna lie, that's something that you would do, but
How?
Yeah,
What?
he does actually. Yeah.
I've been in a relationship for 2 years.
Good for
What are you
me.
on about?
Are you married?
No.
Oh,
Well,
Why
you
is
can
in a
marry
relationship
you
for
can
2
marry your
years?
hand
Hey,
going
question.
rock and
Gio,
top.
what's his name? What's his name? Yeah,
Degenerate.
thank you.
What's his name? Nice.
Does your girlfriend know that your profile picture is anime girl with cat ears?
Oh yeah.
Does your
Actually, she
girl
picked it
your
out. She
girlfriend
actually
does
picked
your
it out when I go
confused
into.
because
She
you're
actually
not
she
alone.
picks it out whenever I go and debate people on
Let me
Discord.
ask. Okay, does she let you out of the house
She,
very
she doesn't she doesn't let me do anything. I let her do everything. What the
often?
fuck?
I have a question. When you say
Right.
she, are we talking like?
Not trans.
He's
Does your
lying. He's already
does,
lying.
This
You
guy's got a
like it
fucking.
already.
Hey,
It's
first
an
of all, this
open
guy's got a penguin. This
relationship.
guy's got a penguin as his PFP. What the fuck? Why is he not getting
Better
flagged?
than you because you have anime.
Yeah,
Your
dude.
What's wrong
penguins are
with anime?
freaking bait.
What's wrong with
Anime is
anime?
much
It's
worse.
an
Very
open
upset.
relationship.
Anime is much worse than penguins.
I've
If you
only
let her
watched
do
two. I've
everything.
only watched 2 animes in my life. 3 if you count Pokemon.
It makes me really sad to hear you're in a relationship, Gio.
That poor girl.
Why are you jealous or something?
Well,
You're not even married.
you can always come to the basement still. I got lots of popsicles.
What?
Grow up, get married, bro. Like, stop fooling around.
Grow up and get married. I'm younger than you. I bet. Calm down.
Yeah, so stop
Dude,
fooling
you're
around.
the one hanging out on here, just like making really dry, bad humor about tag.
What?
Like,
It's not. It's not. I mean, it's not humor. It's just making fun of it.
I have I
Yeah,
got my hands on the mute
well,
button. Thanks,
it's supposed to
Daedalus.
be humor to you,
It's funny to me. Yeah.
right? So why
I mean,
are you
you're a
doing
J.
that?
You're a J diorite. It's okay. It's like whatever.
Wait, what's a
Dude,
wait,
you
wait,
have
real quick. What's a diorite? What exactly is that?
A disciple.
exactly.
One of the 20 disciples of J Dyer who
Wait,
go
so
around and propagate
How
it.
did you so how did you determine that he was a disciple?
I mean, he literally took it as a compliment when I called him a diorite. He's like, "Yes,
Wait,
Dyer's my hero. Yes."
I'm actually
you,
part of
wait,
the
are you
what I
do
said.
you not
Yes.
understand what sarcasm
Yes,
is?
J Dyer is canonized in the church.
Gio, what's wrong with being a
Yeah, if someone
diorite?
called me a diorite or an Andrew Wilson cultist, I'd be like, fuck yeah. Hail Andrew Wilson. Hail Jay Dyer. Because like you
Andrew
guys are
Wilson's a
retarded
fucking
that
smooth
like
brain.
use those arguments that way. Like
You
you're
think
sort of
Gio,
it's
what does that make
insulting our
you?
Dude,
intelligence.
you're all rhetoric, dude. You're all rhetoric, and you're acting like a cocky
The
prick.
worst part it isn't even good rhetoric. That's the worst part about it.
It's not.
I just like
Alright,
Gio,
guys.
Gio,
Alright,
what is
guys.
wrong with being a
Everyone, open your
diorite?
wallet and pay me $2,000 so I can turn on my camera like an e-girl.
It's a
Right. I'll
good.
put you on. He'll put you
You
on the
don't
whiteboard too.
understand his humor. That's
Bro,
his
you
humor.
already are an e-girl. You
He'll
have an
put.
anime
He'll put you.
profile
He'll
pic
put
with
you on the
cat ears,
whiteboard too.
but
Actually,
Testing,
Hey
men
mate,
can't
do
like
you
cute
ever use
things.
Who cares?
testing.
the Pythagorean theorem? You know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Just
Then
in
you're
a
a
different setting.
Pythagoreanite. You know, sometimes people just tell you the truth, and you go, yeah, this
The
makes
fuck does
sense,
that
and you
even mean?
adopt it. It means that just because someone tells you something that's legit and you agree with them, doesn't mean that you're a fucking
Where's Jim
cultist.
Bob? I was having
That's
a good combo
retarded.
with Jim Bob a few hours ago. Where's he at?
No, you weren't, dude. You were being the selfish cunt that you always are. I mean,
Selfish? How the fuck was that
yes.
selfish? I got him in here, and I made him stay here for 3 hours. I gave you guys 3 hours of Jim Bob.
I got him in here.
He didn't join because you were here.
He did join, actually.
He didn't join because you were here.
He stayed because I was here, though.
You
It's
have
called a
such a big ego.
conversation.
Like, pop that balloon, bro.
Yeah, literally.
It's not a balloon.
Dude,
It's
you're
like a
you're
tank.
You're also an absolute
Inflated.
liar.
It's
'cause I
like
know
a
I've talked
it's
to
like
you
a
before on
tiger.
other
It's like
servers and you lied
it's
earlier.
like a tiger tank, you know. It's
Ego
completely
inflation, bro. Ego inflation.
complete. It's like a tiger tank by the Germans. Completely impenetrable. Like
What? I don't
no
even know what
balloon
you're
here.
talking about.
What do you say, dog? What do you say?
gay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we know Gio's not talking about himself, considering he loves to be
Wait,
pegged.
Gio, are you actually like a race realist, or what exactly is your position?
No, Gio, I know what he is. He's a homofetist.
hold on, I have an idea. Gay, 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 gay,
Gay,
gay,
gay,
gay,
gay,
gay, gay, gay.
Hold on,
Hey,
guys.
Gio, you would never know who we know or whatever if we didn't tell you. You could make an inference. And the reality is that you're assuming all of these broad generalizations about everyone and coming to these conclusions. And, you know,
I
Oh,
still haven't,
really?
really,
I
not
still
really
haven't gotten
accurate.
an efficient
Oh,
explanation
really?
of what it was.
Gio, are you a gay diorite?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are you a Jimbobian?
I'm a
I am a
Jim
Jim
Bob.
Bob. I've donated
I'm a
Jim
knob.
Bob before.
I'm a
$10.
big
Apparently, I
knob.
was a Jim Bobian before I knew who Jim Bob was.
I've
Dude,
actually
if
never
you were
donated to
really
anyone
rich,
before in
you'd
my life.
donate $1,000 to Jim Bob. Prove it.
Right.
I'm a bigot knob.
It wouldn't be much to you, right?
I've never even donated to anyone in my life before, dude. Like, what do you mean?
You must be broke.
No, I just did it
Yeah,
because
you're
I wanted to
poor,
get
I
on the
guess, or
stream.
you're uncharitable.
You did it because you want to get on the stream so you could show your ass like a baboon, dude. You're like a little,
What?
you're like a peacock.
Yeah.
Gotta get up in the
It's
ranks somehow,
uncharitable.
dude.
That was
Like,
a
dude,
great burn there. Very nuanced.
As much of an idiot as he is, Gio, in a way, Gio is pretty funny.
Did he leave?
Hold on,
he's
I'm
still
doing
here.
something right now.
Actually, what was the term they used earlier, Gio? What was it? Moral fagging? That was the word?
Yeah, that was the term I used, actually.
Jesus Christ.
I have
you
some
are
ideas.
Logical algebra.
Yon.
Logical algebra was also another one someone said they found funny.
Terminally online, dude.
You can do whatever you want, brother. But an Orthodox stream, or like debating
Who's just
Protestants,
retarded in the
maybe.
background, bro?
I have a bunch of Protestant
I'm Jewish myself. How could I
people
hate
who
Jews?
watch. We could invite them to talk about sola scriptura or something.
Real quick, Gio, what are your thoughts on black people?
People.
Gay based.
Guys, are Africans
like
are
They got
African
lower
Americans
IQ, right?
the real Jews?
Way to
Isn't that what you said,
confirm my
Gio? They got
biases,
lower
mate.
IQ than white people?
That's not what I said at all, bro.
You didn't say that?
Nope.
Oh, I
You
mean,
did not say.
Richie,
hold
what's
on.
up, bro?
You did not say
How you doing
statistically that
tonight?
black people had lower
Do you have
IQs
proof?
than white people.
Do you have proof?
Okay.
okay,
Well,
you did say,
considering
you
we're
did say if you see, you did say if you see a black
Bro, I
person,
did say that. I
automatically
did say that.
assume.
Even
I
if that
know you
statistic
did.
was true, so what?
I'm not like this is not something I'm like hidden about. Like
This is not something I'm hearing about, dude. You're a worm, dude.
a worm.
Feed you to chickens.
A worm.
You're a pig snake. Gio
Wait,
is a pig
you're
snake.
like the first person I think to call me the fucking worm in
That's how you're acting, dude.
a
Gio,
worm.
you're a pig snake.
I think that my critique of the argument is true.
Which one?
I'm not debating for any type of like money or anything.
And you change them depending on what the
Devil's
conversation
Advocate is not. That's not actually. Sorry, I'm playing a game. It's actually not a sophistry, but it's just it's
Well,
being
no,
it's
that's
being
not what
dishonest. It's
LARPing
being
is a
How do you
dishonest.
define it as?
Well, I guess we didn't do that in this case, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I do believe that, huh? Maybe. Let's see.
Do you gaslight your family?
My family, what?
Yeah, do you gaslight them?
What about my family? I don't gaslight anyone.
Well, it seems like you're trying to gaslight a bunch of people right now.
That's like a female's term, bro. Come on.
What?
Gaslighting.
What is a woman, Gio?
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
A woman is whoever identifies as a woman.
So what's a female?
Sorry, Rich.
You're trolling, right? You're
reality is
I got too many mutes and too many mics, and my bad, Richie. I think I don't know if you heard me. I just asked how you were doing.
Wow, so profound. Gio, I feel
Yeah,
as
that's my
though
name.
you might identify as a woman, considering the fact that you have an anime profile.
You feel?
picture.
Hey, guess what? Facts don't care about your
Mhm.
feelings, kiddo.
Oh, that's great. That's great. pick up the.
He's banned. You guys can talk to somebody else now. We've had it. We've had enough of him. He's an absolute waste of everybody's time.
So
And he's a liar. And he's a liar because he lied to me earlier today. I asked if he'd ever been in any Orthodox Christian servers because this isn't one, technically speaking. And he said no, he hasn't. But I know he has.
This is why I had everything muted, Richard.
Have that unique gift.
I was
as a former
practicing my
recording engineer.
voices.
So I'm tired
Yeah.
of his bullshit.
It's good to hear that you're good.
a liar. He's dishonest. We have
Yeah, he said before he was in.
He's been
what's
like
his name?
this.
He says he lives in Michigan. He's full of shit. He lives in California. It sounds like every fucking Californian I ever lived
Right.
around or near for 40 years.
Hey, dude, we don't claim him. We don't claim him, bro.
He's
I
your
don't
problem.
like him.
You need to take out the track.
Yeah, he's been in Zen Shapiro server for a while, and he's just like this over there too. He just gums up every conversation that he's in.
He claimed he was friends with Zen Shapiro, or like
He is. Zen likes him.
Well, he said in the chat
That's
earlier
good
today, at, like
observation,
3
Richard.
p.m. my time, that
I've been
he
hanging
had an
out with
alt
Chris a
in
lot,
the personal
eating lots
Discord
of
server.
popsicles in my basement.
I think he likes the attention. He has a big ego. He likes to.
I would debate Zen over the fact that Geo is a prick.
He just brings in wignats. That's really all he does.
Yeah.
Well, we can
Oh wait,
debate them.
who's bad mouthing my boy Zen Shapiro? He's a legend. We're talking about Zen Shapiro. I haven't seen him in fucking a while now.
I know Geo from Zen server.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, Geo just brings in like all his wignat buddies to try to debate. The last one that he brought in was like this dude that was like trying to ameliorate like 2nd century Gnostic heresies that he holds to with his racism. Like pretty much saying that only Anglo-Saxons are capable of salvation.
I could.
My debate opponent tonight couldn't tell me why me hanging out with Chris in my basement was wrong. He just said he didn't like it. But I don't care about what you like. I care about what I like.
Up with this dumbass theory that like actually all the 12 tribes of Israel are actually white. Like literally.
Yeah, this dude was holding
that's
to
what
like
I said.
yeah, he was holding to like a Valentinian position. It was pretty wild. And when I pressed him on the bisexual angels, he just shut up really quick.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just not gonna vouch for a cocky prick.
Yeah, it's just at a certain point, it's just not worth it. It's a waste of time.
So, do we have any, well, for lack of a better word, hostiles still in here, or is it all just our guys now?
Yeah, it's pretty much all our people, really.
I'm pretty
All right.
damn hostile, man.
But by hostiles, I don't mean that literally just someone that takes an opposing viewpoint.
Hand wignats to me. I can deal with them. I know their worldview. I know how to debunk them.
Wignats are cringe. I mean, I can understand the motivation for why they believe what they believe. Like, there's obviously things going on in the world, but their prescriptions are fucking cringe.
They're closet.
There's a difference when you just join a server to mock tag, though. I mean, he's so bent over presuppositional.
Well, and then all of his like stupid comments about Andrew earlier too are just ridiculous. I mean, like, you know, I'm not fangirling for Andrew. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him multiple times and stuff. And, you know, generally I like his content. But I just thought his, you know, comments were just retarded.
All right, we're gonna
he's
test
a dumb
out
kid
Ben
that called in the
Shapiro
other day
voice.
and tried to
Yeah, me
argue about
too.
robotics or some shit. You know, he's like 18, Andrew's 40 something, and it's like he's just such an arrogant waste of time, man.
Yeah, I didn't get his big point
I'm
about
starting
Andrew,
to inquire orthodoxy,
saying something funny
Richie.
to get donations. Like
This is new for me.
Like he's acting like
And
that.
I'm asking a lot of
Like if you can't
He
see
has
through
some
that and know that
kind of-
Andrew's joking,
Maybe we could talk
like,
about
then
it sometime.
You're literally a complete retard.
He's got some kind of inferiority complex because he said
Yeah, he
that
does.
his parents, he said that his parents weren't rich, and that they became rich, and so I'm assuming the
This is,
reason
Ben
why
Shapiro.
he's doing all of this this
Ooh, this Ben
dance
Shapiro voice is
or
actually
whatever
pretty good.
Yeah.
is because he gets some kind of gratification from it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like, dude, why are you lurking? Like, what are you doing, dude? Go read a book. Go
Yeah,
read a book. Go do something that's not this.
Yeah, when he said facts don't care about your feelings, I got very offended. I have that trademarked.
Right.
You're actually a moral
Nicely
fucking
done.
I got
No,
it. Watch it
that
out
was
for
a
you.
good. I can
Dude,
already
that
see you
one
just bringing
sounded
your
like
feet
a
off the
goblin.
bed there.
Yeah, we can't even understand you when you do that.
I said he goes to 4chan and that's where he gets the moral sagging. Your moral sagging.
Right.
That stuff.
I'm gonna say though, facts don't care about your feelings is like one hell of a slogan. That's pretty good. I guess it's in the nature of that particular group of people to know how to market things pretty well. They have a high verbal IQ, so I hear. And anyway, pretty good.
You think that Jew guy? He actually really didn't like Jews because what's there not to like? You know.
I mean, I think
You
that
don't need to ask questions.
I think that
Don't
Gio
ask
gets his,
questions.
I think
Just
Gio
buy
gets his
content and
worldview
consume more content.
from like 4chan/poll. I think that's where he gets his
Yeah,
worldview.
definitely a poll user.
Oh, really?
He's a poll
that would
user.
make a lot of sense. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
A
can
poll
tell.
has the best memes. Like they're cutting edge anyway. I mean, they're a bit autistic, but yeah, they're pretty
No,
good.
I don't think it's. I'm not a fan, but I mean, when he says stuff like moral fagging, I know that's where he gets that from. I mean, that's where that's from. 4chan.
Yeah,
Poland.
anything with faggot as a suffix is 4chan.
Right. But yeah. I mean, he's young, I guess, but
Dude, there's plenty of young people who don't act that way. I mean, if
I was about to say, yeah, it's not
I
an
was-
excuse.
I was
Yeah.
18 not too long ago. I
Exactly.
didn't
There we
act
go.
that way. I know everybody I knew probably wouldn't act that way, at least most people. And if we saw someone acting that way, you're gonna be like, dude, you're a douche. You're acting like a golfer's like country club kid.
Hey,
Yeah.
don't.
See, I was 18, 20 years ago, so you guys can do the math there. But this new generation, holy shit, they're pretty cursed.
Rogue,
I feel
you
bad for 'em.
you want to debate on why golf is the best sport that has ever been invented?
I like golf as a sport.
Oh, schoolboy.
Golf's a cool sport. It's just the
That was
culture.
the most base thing you've ever said.
What other sport do you actually have
Golf
time
is
to
like
reflect?
golf is like a cup of tea, it's for
taking-
relaxation. It's not a fucking sport.
Yes, it is. It is 100% a sport. When you're
Yeah,
good
it
at
is.
it, when you're good at it, and you can actually learn how to shape the ball, flight the ball up, flight it back, put spin on, take spin off, actually like score and not just sit out there and slam beers and struggle. It is.
To me,
yeah,
I
golf is
agree.
fun.
What are you, like a 5 to a 7 handicap?
I'm a 4
there's-
handicap.
You're a 4.
There's
That's
a
what I am.
craft
I'm a
and an
4.
art and a skill level to golf. Don't get me wrong. I'm not negating any of that. But there's no attack and defense. For me, a sport needs a defensive side and an attacking side. You're just hitting a ball.
You've never played match play,
Dude, if you're
No,
telling
look,
me
that's-
that golf
that's
is
like
just
a
hitting
time
a
trial
ball,
or something.
that's how I know you haven't played golf.
No, okay. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that there's no one actively attacking you, and you having to have
No,
that
it's not.
defense.
It's
You're competing
not
against
like
other
a.
people.
It's not a contact sport. No.
so you've never played
even a
Hold on,
non-contact sport.
Bill
There's
Hicks,
no
hold on.
defensive line
Yeah, it's
against
totally-
yours.
it's totally
I
not
wouldn't
gay, guys.
consider that a sport.
Trust me.
I wouldn't consider
Trust
that
me.
a sport. That's all.
So you've never
Like it's a
Bill
leisurely
Hicks.
activity that you can get better at, and I can give you credit for. But it's not a sport.
Bill, I posted everything you need to see in the sidebar.
Wing that meetup.
Jews are the best at golf.
So, Bill, you've never played match play, and you don't realize that it's mental warfare.
Sorry, I missed that. Never played what?
Match play, and it's absolutely mental warfare.
Yes. Okay. I'll concede that. I'm sure there's an element to that. I don't know. I'm just parroting other people's opinions. Really, I don't care about sport.
I like what Mark Twain said. He said that he said golf is a good walk spoiled.
Yep. Yep.
Real quote. Real life with Mark Twain.
But no, realistically though, name another sport where you actually have time to like take in God's creation while you're walking down the fairway. You have ample time for prayer.
There isn't. There isn't.
It's beautiful. It's the greatest
There
sport ever.
isn't. There is not another sport on this on Earth that's like that.
Where there's actually like you can draw tangents to our salvation in golf that like you have to roll with the punches, that you have to take what you're given. You have to be watchful of your own thoughts, your own attitude, because it is a mental game. It is not just physical. The physical is only 10% of it. And it takes time. Yeah, you have to get the golf swing down, but it's about your mentality approaching it. You can't bite off more than you can chew. You have to learn when to take your medicine. You have to be, it's humbling. It's a beautiful, beautiful sport.
Yeah, that's why Jews are so great at it, because we're not particularly athletic.
Yes.
It worked now. It worked now, by the way.
That's funny.
Hey, why did you
Yeah,
turn
you
off
guys
Jim
liked my
Bob's
impression
stream?
before.
Schoolboy, how long have you been playing?
Since I was 21, so like 11 years.
11 years. 4 handicap in 11 years. That's pretty good.
Imagine being 32.
I worked at a course as a bartender for 5 years, and I played a ton.
Oh yeah, I used to work on the. Like I was just like one of those guys that mowed all the fairway. I was just
That's how I started there.
Hey,
And then I walked into the clubhouse one day and I was like, "Hey, I have my tip certification. If you guys ever need a bartender, let me know." And they moved me inside.
Oh yeah, I never wanted to go work in there. I wanted to stay away from the people. I liked working out on the golf course.
I used to play the assistant pro and kick his ass all the time. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, Wi-Fi, why'd you turn off Jim Bob's or Ben Shapiro? Why'd you turn off Jim Bob's stream?
You got to stop asking questions, okay?
Gotta give him time. Come on, Wi-Fi.
But sorry, I was just putting my yarmulke on. Well, you see, I don't particularly like when people diss Israel on live streams.
Yeah.
I heard he wasn't a Zionist. I mean, how could you not be a Zionist? I mean, come on.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
All of you ortho brimmers. Bros. Your anti-Zionist crap.
Crap.
Haven't you read Romans? Now I'm gonna have to brush up on my Ben Shapiro lore.
No, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good, I have to say. It's a pretty amazing voice changer. Been a hell of a last few weeks with debates and shit, dude. This is crazy. Hopefully Jim Bob gets on whatever. He was talking to Brian about that.
You know who's not good at golf?
Oh yeah. Hey, is Olaf still here? Olaf, you here?
Yeah, I am. Hello.
Hey, bro. Gio is a total poll user, dude. Now that you mention it,
Do you
I
know
can
who's
tell
not
because I
good
used
at
to go
golf?
there.
oh my
Orange Flea.
Way back.
goodness, dude.
Yeah, I can
Like
tell.
the
the
level of
batting's
like
not that good.
coping, seething soy teen, but like
Testing out some voices
retarded
here. Lemon,
soy
what's good,
teen.
bro?
It's just, my goodness.
Yeah, also I think he just goes here because he likes the attention and stuff, and he's he like changes where he lies about previous statements, and we shouldn't really give him that much attention. I'm glad he got kicked here. Actually, that's
Also,
good
I'm
for
like,
him.
dude, how much you making with your little MLM you built that you fucking copy and pasted from Stack Overflow? Like, come on, dude. You're not building some solo project MLM. He was like, oh yeah, I'm managing these client portfolios. I'm like, all right. I mean, if you're really doing that at 18, dude, great. But the reality is that, you know, you can't really value anything under that view at all. You certainly can't justify any real value, only perceived value. And to him, it's just money.
Well, wealth management,
I mean,
like that could be anything. Like there's these things, I forget exactly how they work, but they're called IULs. It's like life insurance policies. They're basically scams. And all you have to do is get licensed and you can call yourself a wealth management person. But also, if you have a dad who's a business owner and he probably has business owner friends, if you go down that route, you just get your business owner dad's friends to give some of their money to him and then you build from there. But at 18, I mean,
that's
if you
that's a little sussy wussy, if I do say so myself.
I mean, again, if you're a cashier at Walmart, you're handling transactions for a multi-billion dollar corporation.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like you
Well,
can
and
shift anything into anything. It's
right. Yeah. I mean,
Like
yeah.
saying sanitation
to that point.
technician, you're just a freaking janitor, man.
Well, he's like, I did construction. I worked
Right.
14 hours. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
you
for how many years?
building-
For how
you
many hours?
building the
How many
back
weeks? A
patio?
month?
Yeah,
Right.
you building the back patio was not, you know, for
He
the
had a
weekend.
40-year-old's resume for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're not doing that. Like, look, if you graduated college at 13 and then you went and got like an MBA, all right, you know, I understand. I guess that happens sometimes, but like, and I'll grant all of that. It still doesn't change the fact that you can't place any value over efficiency or whatever. This is why when Jim Bob asked him about having kids, he's like, I don't know. Because he has no way to put value on anything other than money. He doesn't have any other. This is why he was like, yeah, you know, I don't mind shitting on low IQ people, because he's perfectly fine with just valuing whatever is good for him. He doesn't have a worldview outside of himself, and so that's why everything that he values is very inward.
Was he the guy who also admitted to worshipping IQ as God, or saying that IQ is
Yeah, I
basically
mean,
God too?
he's trolling though, and he does that like douchey little monotone voice very well. So it's hard to tell based off of his intonation whether or not he's being serious or he's being satirical.
Yeah,
and he's doing that on purpose.
I picked
but
it, and
it's just like,
I picked up on that like a year ago when he was over in Dyer's server and elsewhere. You know that he's just full of crap.
So he did lie. He was in Dyer's server. That's fucking that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And I don't believe anything he said at all. I don't believe that he's from some multi-generational like Albanian family in America.
Right.
I don't believe for a second he lives in Michigan. I have cousins who live in Michigan. He doesn't sound like anybody I've ever met in my life who's from Michigan. He sounds like a freaking He does. He sounds like a freaking Californian. And I would go so far as to say possibly Asian, not for sure, but there's every now and again there's a little something
This
he
is the
says
best
that just makes me
Discord
think he's
server
California
ever.
Asian. I could be wrong on that. He might just be Californian. You know.
He's definitely Californian.
This is the
because
best Discord
Californians,
server.
Like, have that lack of accent, in my opinion.
You think this Trump is good?
Yeah,
I would say
it depends.
the way.
But I know what you
No, but
I
definitely
don't know
the
if this Trump
cadence.
voice is actually good.
That's a
in
better
the
way
way
to
he
say it. The
speaks.
cadence. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's
Like
good.
that rhythm.
Yeah. I mean, we should probably not give him the attention he wants, I think.
Well, that's why we got rid of him
Well,
because
yeah,
that's good.
he's farming,
he
dude.
did attention
And
seeking,
that's why I'm like,
and
he's
probably
farming
recording all
what?
this too or something. I don't know.
Oh, probably, dude. Probably.
Yeah, he's that much of a putz. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing with your life, dude? You're 18, dude. You could transform yourself from super selfish into fucking
right
great, but yet you just decide to be a prick.
He just needs to grow up and bow down to the Lord. That's what he needs to do. That's what everyone needs to do.
Yeah.
It's simple, but that's it real.
And he was talking in Albanian earlier, so like I believe the Albanian part.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm sure.
Fair enough.
I'm sure he's just embellishing.
That's funny though, because he's like I don't know, like a white identity guy or whatever, and he's Albanian. That's kind of funny
Yeah,
to me.
like,
In
dude,
their
that's
worldview,
not
it's
even.
funny.
Yeah, you're like
Yeah, Richard Spencer
you're
wouldn't
like
even talk to him.
chickpea white, you know?
Yeah, I mean, their group don't even want Albanians, probably, like a lot of them. So
Well, and that's the thing. Let me grant that everything that he said is true. It still doesn't change the fact that he's a self-centered piece of shit.
Right.
You know, like if he was ever to be a leader, the irony, Ephraim, is that he
Yeah.
can gloat and he can put himself up as better and prove himself to be in any way, shape, or form he wants to. He can have a debate with Andrew. Oh, he wins. And guess who he is able to lead by being a selfish piece of shit? No one.
Right.
No one. No one will respect him.
good point.
And if he was ever a leader, people would revolt against him because he can't lead
Right.
anyone because he's a selfish bully.
Good point,
Right.
man. Yeah.
Yep. And the one thing I do like about Andrew, I will say this, is that he is who he is. Like he's the genuine article. Like he's very down to earth. When you talk to him offline, he's very, very relaxed, very straightforward, straight shooter, doesn't pull any punches, no bullshit. Like he is literally he when he describes himself as being just like a blue collar type of guy, that is literally who he is. And I respect him for it. You know, I like that about people when they're just honest about who they are, because it comes across. You know, you can tell that you're not unlike Gio, who's an absolute liar about most things. Andrew's
Yeah.
very down to earth. He's very self-deprecating. It's obvious when he's joking around about whatever it is that he's joking around about. You know, and
Yeah, dude, that's why people
and
respect
you know what's
him.
funny about him? What happened was the only reason I
All
started
right, this is
listening to
supposed to be
Andrew
Jerry
is
Seinfeld.
the only reason I even found Orthodoxy was because
It's
I
not
watched
that
the
good.
debate with Jay Dyer several years ago when he debated against J.F. Garapi. I am just a truth-seeking machine. That guy, right? So anyway, so
Wife
I watched that
killer.
debate. And that's how I discovered Orthodoxy. It wasn't even on my radar. I'd never even thought about it, never even considered it, right? And I was like, well, what's this? So then I started going down the rabbit hole. I was like, oh gosh, well, I've been languishing in a Lutheran church for years, and I don't think I want to be a Protestant anymore. And I had already written off the whole Catholic nonsense like 16 years ago at this point, you know. But anyway, so I found Orthodoxy because of Jay, and it was and the reason I even found Jay was because I was starting to get more interested in like apologetics and like, well, how do we debate as Christians against atheists? Like, I don't even know where to begin on any of that stuff. So I was completely green to philosophy, at least in terms of apologetics. Well, yeah, just at least in terms of apologetics. I wasn't totally green to philosophy because I had philosophy courses. Like I had college level in high school, and I also took some in. I took like symbolic logic and stuff in university. But anyway, I still kind of just coming into all this stuff. And then what happened was, fast forward several
this
years,
is Joey Diaz.
and like maybe just a couple of years ago, I discovered Andrew because I thought, I wonder if there's any other debate
Joey
things
Diaz
out
is
there
actually pretty
besides,
good.
Modern day debate, because I don't really like them, and I don't really like the people they have on, and I think their moderators are terrible.
Joey Diaz.
Yeah, they are. They're just bad. But anyway, and so then I found the
it's Joey.
Crucible. I was like, oh, what's this? And so I clicked on a thing and just put on a debate. And I really took a liking to Andrew. He was actually doing I think someone else was moderating on his channel. Maybe that Pedro guy or whoever, I don't remember anymore, but whatever. And so somebody else was moderating, and it was Andrew and someone else, not Jim Bob, but somebody else versus like these two vegan guys or something. So I just had, I just put it on and started listening, and I realized
Joey Diaz.
that Andrew was really good at like framing
It's not that
things
good though.
and like thinking, like taking whatever the person.
It's a good voice, but it's got a lot of background on.
He's able to process it really quickly and then spit it back out and say, here's what's wrong with what you're saying. And I really liked that. Little did I know that he was an Orthodox catechumen. I had no clue. I didn't know about that for a long time until I think one of my friends here mentioned it to me or something, So that's how I found Andrew. And then Jim Bob, I think I found because of Andrew, because of the Crucible or something, And then I took a shine to Jim Bob, and I thought, oh, this guy's funny, man. He's got the same type of sense of humor that I do. He's probably around my same age. Turns out he is. I'm a couple years older, and that's how I found out about Jim Bob. So I like these communities. They all have their own flavor, their own culture.
They do. And to that point, I think it's a logical consequence. If you're a theist,
Yeah.
and you're going into the debate sphere, or you're starting to analyze, like arguments or apologetics or metaphysics or epistemology,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you kind of fall into one of these camps where it's either like, you're a Protestant debater or whatever, but a lot of
Yeah.
people end up atheist or orthodoxy. And that's
Right.
just kind of the thing. But to your point, Andrew is a real dude. When he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
when Gio was coming up here like, oh, Andrew's a grifting piece of shit and he's begging for money. It's like, dude, he is one of the only people that I know that actually engages and talks to his fans. And
Yeah.
he has a substantial following to the point where
Yeah.
that creates a huge infringement upon your life. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
imagining Andrew for like an hour and a half with his cup of coffee every morning, scrolling
Morty,
through
come on,
DMs, just
Oh yeah.
responding to people. But
He actually took an hour
All
of
right,
his
this
own
Rick's pretty good,
time
actually.
and talked to me direct on a DM like a year and a half ago. Well, it was a DM at first,
Come on,
and then
Morty, get in the portal.
I just said, "Would you mind VCing? Just so we could just talk about it quicker. It's easier than typing." He said, "Oh yeah, I totally
yeah,
agree."
of course.
So he spent an hour in VC, just one-on-one, middle of the
Nice.
night. It was like 2 a.m. for both of us because he was up in Michigan, I'm down here in Tennessee, and just totally down to earth and just helped me understand. Because what happened is one of the weirdo vegan people that either he had debated or somebody else had debated kept using this one phrase over and over again, but I didn't understand what they were talking about because it's just not in my wheelhouse, And so I said, what did they mean by that? And exactly how do we go about like kind of deflating that? Because and so he just broke it down, just put it in really simple terms, and stuff, and it clicked, it made sense to me or whatever. And then we started talking about just other stuff in general. I mean, I was really surprised that a guy that's already at that level, whatever that means, was willing to spend, an hour talking to basically somebody he doesn't even know, and I've gotten to know
Yeah,
him since that point in
it's
time,
one of
but
those
yeah, it's really
it's
cool.
one of those like unicorn occurrences on the
Yes.
YouTube sphere
Yes.
where you can tell someone has found a niche making money by being real. And that's very, very, very rare. Very rare. Because most of the time, people are conforming their behavior really to a large extent in order to kind of work with the whole YouTube, building relationships on YouTube, not pissing anybody off, whatever. Andrew
Right.
just says, "Fuck that,"
Yeah,
and
he does.
I
And
really have a lot of
yeah,
respect for that.
yeah,
Yeah, I found orthodoxy actually after I saw Andrew on whatever. I was 22 at the time,
oh,
23 now.
yeah,
And I found Andrew through whatever, or like and like red pill stuff. I wasn't super red pill, but I
yeah,
appreciated what was being said. And I found Andrew, and then I found whatever around the same time, around vice versa, whichever one first, and then from there, I'm like, this is making some really good points. And then I started looking into the whole debate stuff, and then I found Jay, I found Jim Bob, and I'm like, oh. And then
yep,
started
yep.
looking into orthodoxy, and boom, there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. Or have you joined the church yet or not yet?
Well, so I've been going to catechism class, and I've been going to
Oh,
church
good.
since
Yeah, good.
November.
Glad to hear it.
The whole anointing thing, I haven't asked to be anointed yet.
Yeah.
Because
All good.
I know when I do as well, I'm getting a math degree right now, so
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm pretty I am very, very burnt out. Even when I'm on Discord, I'm
I
like
understand.
pretty much working. I got a notebook right next to me.
I got you.
But
I got you. Yeah. Well, no, but good. That the fact that you're kind of working and heading in that direction, that's great. And everyone takes their own time. I mean, I always tell people, from stumbling on orthodoxy accidentally, completely accidentally because of Jay, to actually joining the church with my family was a 3.5-year process. So it's not like you can just show up and say, "Hey, Father, would you baptize me tomorrow or next weekend?"
yeah.
It doesn't
Well,
work
and
that
that's
way,
a
which is
beautiful
actually
thing.
nice. It's nice that it
It's a
doesn't work that
beautiful
way.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Because you
it's
really want to
fantastic
understand
because
what
it
it is that you're
shows
kind of
you
getting in. Yeah. Good.
right. It legitimizes the actual process. It's not this whole Protestant crap. And when I found orthodoxy too, at that point, I was very resentful towards Protestantism, just because I felt like these people were grifting liars.
Yeah.
And most of them are. So I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
makes sense. Then
Yeah, the best
the
part about Andrew is he
metaphysics.
puts all of his enemies in crystals.
Hey, yeah, I'm Crystal Rick.
Crystal logic.
Now I was gonna say. Now I'm thinking of Christological, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
I
Yeah,
voted for
Jim Bob's
Trump because
gotta
he's
do
into
more with
crystals.
him.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he's going to. I can't wait to. I think he's gonna do some man on the street type stuff later this year, and then and he did tell me he's gonna definitely try to do another Bob Ross type thing at Cristo, where he paints yet another thing and does like silly commentary. My wife and I were dying, man. We thought that was really funny when he did that.
We really need Jay Dyer to do something like Christos, but with Randy Balls. And
Randy Balls.
destroy the Protestants with their own like system, but as Randy
Someone
Balls.
Yeah, Jim Bob and Breakfast
Chat today
Tacos is
that asked him to do
hilarious.
that while he was live, and he said he was thinking about it.
Yeah, I asked him that super chat.
Oh, that was your super chat. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
it
I was
was?
watching it live, dude.
You know what it was for me, Ephraim, too, was the metaphysics, because I came from the Bay Area psychedelic background.
Yeah, I had friends that
So-
did that, became Orthodox. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I was very STEM, science, technology, engineering oriented, taking mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Did
I
psychedelics
couldn't-
make you think
I
of like spiritual things, or did it keep you in your materialist bubble?
Oh no, it absolutely led me down a very, very spiritual path. But
Okay.
something that I recognized was that I couldn't come up with an answer. It led me to maybe think about things more, but you couldn't ever come up with a concrete answer. And the only time I ever found a concrete answer was when I looked into Orthodox Christianity. And I was like, well, you know what? This solves this metaphysical problem that, as someone who loves math, like I just cannot help but appreciate. Not to mention when you look at like the Fibonacci sequence and you look at all these other probability
Mandelbrot.
problems. Yeah, like the probability of those things occurring over and over again is incredibly unlikely.
I know a
And-
catechumen in my parish, and he is also a math guy. He studies math also, and that's one of the ways he got interested in God, I think, in a way.
Right, because when you do, you realize that probability itself would lend itself, especially being in a universe of entropy. So if you have entropy, right, you have disorder, and if you break a glass, because of entropy, that glass is never going to reorder itself. It's never going to come back together. It will always separate, or it'll always be separated. And so when you have order in an entropic environment that shows something that is going directly against entropy to organize itself, which shows when you look at the randomness, so to speak, of entropy, you cannot deny that, like mathematically speaking, having order in that state is very, 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 very unlikely.
Yeah.
Very astronomically unlikely.
When I looked at the Mandelbrot set with the visualizations, that was
All right,
that was
boys.
one of the reasons I started
I'll
believing.
finish up the
in God
stream
seriously.
down. I appreciate y'all being
That's
here
a
for the
fair point,
debate
yeah.
and
Yeah.
the after
It's like,
party.
why is it eternal and
Y'all have a great night.
Because it is.
Thanks for the new subs.
and infinite
Dataless,
as well.
that $20 was insane.
That where
Appreciate
there's
you.
something outside of
Have a good night, everybody.
of time. Yeah.